Hi, it's me, Vicky Marie. Hello, I hope you've all had a brilliant Saturday. If you're watching this live now, if you're watching it on catch up, it was a Saturday that I'm recording it, so that's why I'm asking. I've had a lovely day, really nice day. Been for a long walk with the doggies along the beach. Well, not exactly on the beach, but on a path next to the beach. It was very windy. I mean, it was very nice sunny weather, but it was very windy. So we had a lot of sand blown in our face. But apart from that, it was really good, really nice. And I want to say cheers because I am celebrating tonight, of course, because I have just passed 3,000 subscribers. So cheers, thank you so much to everybody who's helped me to get there. Cheers. And yeah, thank you so much, all of you that are subscribed, all of you that watch, all of you sitting at home that are watching. I want to say a special thank you to my members because, you know, a lot of true crime channels, the true crime videos that you make, you get demonetized, you know, you don't get monetized because of the nature of what you're doing. So I want to thank everybody who supports me by being a member, apart from the fact that I really enjoy the members' lives on a Thursday. And I want to thank everybody who has sent me a super, has PayPal'd me, has bought me a Ko-fi. Thank you so much, because everything is so much appreciated. But the most important thing you can do to help my channel is subscribe. Don't forget to leave your fingerprint on the like button. And but most importantly, yeah, thank you so much for helping me to get to 3,000 subscribers. So tonight we're going to talk about everybody's favourite crime commissioner, Andrew Snowden, also sometimes known as Andrew Snowman. And it's funny because although we may disagree on some things, I think everybody sort of agrees that Andrew Snowden is a little bit of a twonk, isn't he? You know, he's like, well, you see, I'm laughing though as I say it. I think he's starting to almost grow on me now because he's so silly. But of course, he is the crime commissioner of Lancashire, so he's got a serious job. But he does it in his own special way, doesn't he? And I think anyone from probably even other parts of Britain, but anyone certainly from other parts of the world, will look upon Andrew Snowden, and think, oh my God, you know. But to me, Andrew is the typical product of politics at the moment, because for those of you who don't know, our sort of county in the UK, the crime commissioners are elected. You know, so basically, whatever party wins the election, normally then the crime commissioner, normally, not always, will be elected, you know, and go with that. He's the first Conservative crime commissioner in Lancashire for a long time. So he came in like on the wave of the Boris Johnson Red Wall revolution. Before that, it's always been a Labour crime commissioner in Lancashire. And Andrew Snowden, he rode in with the Conservative Party and all these sort of career politicians. You know, that's when politics really took a nosedive in Britain. You know, the reputation of the international reputation of Britain, and this, you know, 3 prime ministers in 4 years, and, you know, none of them any good, one compared to a lettuce. You know, all these kind of things that have happened over the past 4 years in British politics. Andrew is just part of it, I think. I think he is a product of his time. So he's the crime commissioner of Lancashire, which you know, is a very serious job, of course, but he does it in his own inimitable way. I mean, one thing you can definitely say about him, he does it his way. He doesn't, even though he's been criticised for the way he does it, he hasn't taken any notice of it. And he's famous for his Twitter posts of what fantastic meals he makes and wine that he drinks and, you know, all this. And we're going to look at that, a little bit of that tonight. But the first thing I'm going to do is say hello to everybody. And then we're going to have a look at Mr. Snowden, little bit about him, some things that I found that you won't have seen that he's been on, some things maybe you have seen, and just we're going to have a little chat about him tonight. And where is he going? You know, this is an election year. Now, this year there will be an election, and Mr. Snowden wants to be re-elected because it's a good job. To me, it seems like he gets paid £80,000 a year plus expenses, no doubt. So £80,000 plus whatever he claims on expenses for not doing that much, really. Or it doesn't seem like he has to do much. You know, the police do a lot more. He's not like a policeman. He doesn't have to go out. I mean, he quite often goes with the police to, you know, for a photo opportunity, etc. But he doesn't, you know, really, it's an office job that he's got for £80,000 a year plus expenses. So he's doing okay. And he wants to keep it. Gosh, sorry. Do you know what? My son's been cooking burgers tonight and it's like there's smoke everywhere. Anyway, so let's say hello to everyone. So, hi, Mello. Mello was first tonight. Now, a lot of people had comments about the thumbnail, and we're going to have a look at that in a minute because again, I'm a little bit speechless as to why he thought that that would be a good selfie to put on his Twitter. But he does seem oblivious. He seems oblivious to everything. He just does his own thing. And he doesn't seem to see the sort of effect he has. Anyway, so yes, nightmarish thumb. Sorry, God, all the smoke's up my nose and the bubbles probably. So, hi, Ray. Ray says he looks insane. Hi, David. These were jokes that were happening before we'd even started. You've heard of Commissioner Gordon. This is Commissioner Gormless. Vanessa, the 411, Mello, she thought the same as Mello. It was a nightmarish thumb. And then Simon K, who's probably one of the newest subscribers who's come as a subscriber since I started covering Samantha Murphy case. He's like, good grief, crime commissioner. He looks like a suspect in a case. Completely bonkers. And Vanessa agrees with him. Then Ray has another little thing to say about him. I won't read that out because he does use a bad word, and you know I never use bad words. Hi, Julie Dawn. Yeah, if it looks like a clown, it normally is a clown. Hi, Chumba. Old hippie. Hi, old hippie. Old hippie thinks he looks like a Teletubby. I think that's a bit of an insult to Teletubbies, personally. Does he look like, was it Poe or does he look like Poe or one of the others? Oh, dear me. And Chumba, I'm convinced, is on drugs. Well, there's something I want to read you about that selfie that made me laugh because I think he might well be on something. Yeah, and of course, David's saying, ask Andrew to pass the cheese board and the wine menu for us plebs. You know, because he does it. Gosh, you know, he's always talking about wine. And I'll tell you what, the wine he drinks, I wouldn't be able to afford. You know, I'm outraged if a bottle of wine costs over €4. You know, I bet the bottles of wine he drinks cost a lot more than €4. And actually, I was a bit outraged when I bought this bottle of Carver today because I haven't had a bottle of Carver since Valentine's Day. And it was €2.95. And I'm sure the last time I bought one, it was only $1.95. Anyway, extortionate. I do like a glass of Carver. So you're right, David, he would fit into Rampton or Broadmoor. And for those who are watching from other countries who don't know what Rampton or Broadmoor are, they're like the mental asylums. And there's some talk about Ben Turpin and Dick Turpin. Hi, Aileen. Hi, thank you for joining us. Hi, Jackie. David, save us a sausage. We've been sausaged out today, David. We've had a lot of chat about sausages today. So it's cold today, is it, where you are, Aileen? I'm not sure where you are. I presume you're in the UK somewhere. Chumba's having salmon. Hi, Tina. -2, Jackie. Where are you there where it's going to be -2? Hi, Kelly. I bet it's not going to be -2 where you are. Tina with her traditional hello. Hi, Susan. Hi, Annie. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Wendy. You've had hailstone, so you're in Manchester, aren't you? It's raining in Barcelona, Charlie. Oh, no, it's been a lovely day here, but it's been windy, though. Hi, Bridget. Hi, Nick. Thank you. Thank you for saying that I look gorgeous in peach. Oh, thank you. I'll get some nice compliments. Thank you so much. Yeah, exactly. Well done you for getting me to 3,000 subscribers. All of you, thank you so much. Bridget, I think I said hello to Bridget, but hi again, just in case I didn't. Chumba's fairy cake has turned into something else. Oh, Rio. Hi, Rio. You've been on the water all day in the sleet and snow on a powerboat course. And you're freezing. Oh my God, you've got to defrost gradually. You are a bit of an action woman, aren't you, Rio, with your kung fu and your powerboat courses? You're a bit of an action woman on the quiet. Thank you, Rio. Gosh, my nose all blocked up with the smoke from the burgers that Jack made. Hi, Wesley. Yeah, Harry Enfield's toilet. I used to love Harry Enfield. I loved the way he did the, Luke and Perry, the Mancunians. So funny. Hi, Mariah. Yeah, Charlie, you're right. Brexit, since Brexit, everything's just gone skew with in Britain, I think. Oh, Charlie, not November. I was hoping for an April one. Oh, dear me. Hi, Matthew. Gosh, there's quite a lot of you here. Thank you for all being here to listen to me waffle on. Mr. Bean, yeah, it does look a little bit like Mr. Bean. Hi, Alana. Alana's in Australia. I can't do an Australian accent. I'm not even going to try. We're not talking about the bush tonight, Charlie. Hi, Mark. No bushes tonight. Not unless some news comes on while I'm on. Hi, Lulu. Oh, you've got a drought. Yeah, there is a drought all over Spain, to be fair. We do need rain. We haven't really had much here, but they switched off the showers at the beach, Charlie. Gosh. Hi, Lulu. November. Yeah, I think we're going to have to wait till November. You know, Rishi Sunak is not going to call an election. He'll call it the last possible moment because they're so unpopular. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Jackie. Yeah, we don't mention that name, Aileen, on this channel. We don't give any attention to him. Okay, so cheers, and here we go. Mr. Snowden, what has he been up to? So the first thing I want to show you is a little bit on his Twitter, well, where that picture came from for a start. So he posted that Twitter on his Twitter account. He seemed to think, you know, that would be a good picture, a good selfie to post. I always like his posts, and sometimes I share them, and he doesn't realise that I'm being sarcastic. Well, I think he doesn't realise. Maybe he does realise. Maybe don't care. Like my son said to me, oh, well, he doesn't care. He's probably just thinking, oh, someone's liked my post. But he posted this selfie. But what was funny was the post that went with it. So this was on February the 13th. It was an early start at County Hall today, but bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready for a packed day of meetings. Some days start with being on drugs raids. Well, I don't know about you, but I think that morning might have started with a drugs raid. You know, as soon as I saw that, it just made me laugh. So I just thought, yep, that's a drugs raid. That's him taking a selfie after he's been on a drugs raid. Some start with chairing accountability board, but all are part of the leading the fight against crime. Have a good Tuesday, everyone. So there you go. What do you reckon? I reckon it's 99% certain that before he took this picture, he'd been on a drugs raid. Or it certainly looks like that, doesn't it? So, okay. So, you know, he puts a lot of posts on, but he mixes. I think what he does wrong is he mixes his personal posts with his sort of policing posts. So instead of, you know, I suppose he wants to have a personal Twitter account, or X account, should call it, because he actually says this up at the top. To be fair, he sort of gives a disclaimer, because he says Lancashire Andrew Snowden, Lancashire Police Commissioner, personal account. So expect dad, hubby cooking as well as policing pics. If you only want the official PCC bits, you should follow Lancs PCC. So it's our fault if we follow this and we get offended by his, meals and what have you. It's our fault, because we should just follow the police then. Now, this is the new Chief Constable for Lancashire, because of course the previous Chief Constable retired, and this is the new one, Sasha Hatchett, who is currently DCC of the force, and she was chosen by the PCC following a vigorous process. I bet it wasn't a very vigorous process. It probably always knew it was going to go to her, but for whatever reason. But anyway, he has announced his preferred candidate for CC of Lancs Police. And this is her, Sasha. I hope, you know, she does better. She's certainly younger than the last one. I hope she does better than the last one. So he goes out on the beat with the bobbies, you know, takes a selfie. Hearing firsthand from Sergeant Hill and Sergeant Ward while we walk the beat about how their teams have been using the increases in officer numbers to dismantle entire drug gangs and boost foot patrols. I bet he never has to pay for his oh, Riley, come on. Riley wants to say hello. Got to, you know, it's like, it's go on, and say hello. Riley wants to say hello. You've got to look at the camera. Look at the camera. You want to say hello. Anyway. So, yeah, he's good. As one thing I'll say, I mean, he's good at the old marketing and everything, you know. He's that generation, I suppose. I think he's in his 30s, so he's probably, you know, always been in the social media sort of world, if you like, more than the older ones would have been. So anyway, there is sharing a curry and a catch up with retired Superintendent Abid Khan. Good to talk through ideas and thoughts. Do you know, I just, he must be on something like speed or something, because why is he not as fat as a pig? You know, the amount of food he eats. He's always posting food and wine and everything, but he's quite slim actually, isn't he? So I'm not quite sure how he manages that. Then on February the 22nd, he was engaging with a bright group of children for the Quran. Masrada Anwar up Quran as part of a road safety project. Oh, spot me in the crowd. I mean, he is quite funny because, you know, I mean, it's just so ridiculous. Spot me in the crowd. Oh, come on. He just doesn't even know he's funny sometimes. Or does he? I don't know. Is it deliberate? It does make me laugh. I don't like the way he's making me laugh, actually. Anyway, so then he's showing us how he shines a light inside the lab at leading forensic facilities. Let's have a look what he's got to say about that.
Hi, I'm Andrew Snowden, Lancashire's Police and Crime Commissioner. And in this video, in the series that we've been doing, explaining different elements of the policing that we pay for as the taxpayers of Lancashire, we're shining a light on forensics. And I know that people find it a fascinating area. The staff and the officers who work in this building and in other units across the constabulary are often the unsung heroes of the fight against crime. They work in labs, in vans, they work at crime scenes. They are not.
Well, the forensics department didn't do very well in the Nicola Bulley case, did they? Let's be honest. Well, you know, maybe they weren't given a chance, but anyway.
Often seen by the public. But without their efforts, without their work, many criminals would never end up convicted or behind bars. So let me explain to you the fantastic work that officers and staff here do to build cases, meticulously collect evidence and undertake investigations to put some of the most violent and worst offenders in prison.
Oh, in prison. You know, he's good. He is good at that kind of thing. You know, if you believe in that what he says is true. I just want to say, I mean, Lancashire Police Force, they do have a very difficult job. I mean, there's a lot of drug crime in that area. There's a lot of violent crime. You know, it's not an easy job. And I just want to make that clear. I've got nothing against, you know, your normal Bobby on the beat or whatever. Sorry, it's the carver. It's got the bubbles are repeating on me. You know, so I don't want to be. I'm not a police basher. I think if you watch my channel enough, you'll know that I'm not. I find some of the things that the Lancashire Police did over the Nicola Bulley case were ridiculous. But I think in general, they've got a hard job to do.
And forensics largely breaks down into two categories. There's the traditional forensics, the trace forensics as it's often referred to, and digital forensics and investigations. The traditional forensics is those forensics that many of us will have seen for a long time on our TV screens or as part of watching updates on police investigations, whether it be the traditional fingerprinting, whether it be the footwear print. These are long-standing, long-tested and well-delivered forensics, which...
He hasn't had a shave. I mean, is it me? But he hasn't had a shave. He looks like he needs a shave. He's probably come straight from a drugs raid.
Lancashire has been at the cutting edge of for many decades.
It's concrete evidence because it links an offender to the crime scene forensically by science. To leave a fingerprint at a crime scene, you've got to be there. You can get DNA from smaller and smaller samples. All you need now is just a few skin cells. And to think we've got the National DNA database, which is amazing, you can get a hit on that database within 48 hours and get somebody arrested. nearly all here on site. We've got our own reporting scientists, we've got a footwear department, we've got our own drugs department, we've got our own forensic investigations unit, we've got our own fingerprint lab. It's all here in one building.
The second area is the digital space. It is the way in which the world has changed so much in the last decade or two. Around 80% of all crimes now have a digital footprint.
Digital technology forms a part of everyday life for nearly everyone in society, whether it's from the mobile phone you have in your pocket, the computer you have in your office at home, or the car you drive. All of them devices and all of them tools gather information about you. It's my job and it's my department's job to ultimately collect that information if it is part of a criminal investigation. We employ digital forensics tools to recover the likes of deleted information and encrypted information. The digital forensics world is extremely challenging, so it's important that my department employ the most advanced technology, hardware and software available on the market today.
Now, just having a look at some of your comments there and everything, he definitely wants to be Prime Minister one day, Andrew Snowden. You can see it. He's already canvassing for it. He's well, the way it's going at the moment, the way politics are at the moment, he could be the next one, couldn't he? I mean, Rishi Sunak wasn't even voted for and he made it to Prime Minister. And yeah, it's all this slick campaigning now. I hate Rishi Sunak's campaigning. Honestly, I thought Boris Johnson was bad enough or Liz Truss was bad enough. But watching Rishi Sunak, it's so false. That horrible, embarrassing Christmas advert that he did, as if he was home alone in 10 Downing Street. Well, he would be, because he doesn't celebrate Christmas, does he? So, it's like it's not part of his culture. It was just awful. And advertising Coca-Cola, at the same time. I mean, why was he knocking down Coke tins? There would have been some money in it for him, because everything he does is about money, as if he hasn't got enough. This is what we're left with at the moment. And listen, the forensics things is really interesting. I'd love to see a documentary about the forensics lab and the thing. We're all interested in that kind of things. But there's something about the way Andrew presents it. It's too glib, isn't it? It's very glib. It's very, I don't know how to explain it. I suppose I'm old school. I want politicians, and he is a politician at the end of the day. I want them to be boring. I want them to be have gravitas. I want to feel when they're talking that I believe what they're saying. Even if I don't agree with it, I believe that they believe that, in whatever it is, that they've got a creed that they believe in, even if it's the opposite to what I think. These sort of, I would prefer a conviction politician any day to a career politician. And of course, most of the politicians these days, they have got convictions, or they should have convictions, but not the right kind of convictions.
So there you've heard it. Different ways in which officers use traditional technologies and new and emerging capabilities to be able to take the fight to criminals. And we have seen a £1.7 million increase since I came to office in the amount of money we spend in digital forensics and digital investigations. That represents around a third increase in the overall budget to make sure that those who are guilty are caught, are evidenced clearly, and get put behind bars.
It's interesting. I wonder if I might have a look in a minute. I don't prepared that, but I don't know if crime has gone down. Being serious, maybe crime has gone down since he took over. Then, of course, we get his Sunday suppers, beetroot and parmesan risotto, raw beets peeled and marinating before slow roasted. Now, it's the contrast. So we've gone from, a serious video about leading forensics, and then we've got his Sunday supper. Oh, and then his son, and he puts pictures of his son all over Twitter, so I don't feel like I have to blur his photo out because it's all over his public Twitter. So his son's called Walter, and this is his car. I mean, it's quite funny seeing him in that pink car. I had a pink van for a while. I love my pink van. I'd love to have a pink car again. Walter's got one. Then on February the 7th, he had a busy day. He was canvassing for elections, big shop and little shop, walk the dog, playtime with Walter, tidy up after playtime with Walter, and then time for a brew and a book for an hour. This was a friend of his who sadly died. So then on the 15th of February, he secured £1.7 million for tackling antisocial behaviour in Lancashire. It's a big problem in Lancashire, antisocial behaviour. So, I don't know. I wonder, people, those of you out there, I know I've got quite a lot of subscribers who live in Lancashire. What do you think? Have you noticed the difference? Do you think he's good at what he does? Anyway, then he says, last night I gave a speech and it reminded me of how proud I am of everyone at the Lancashire Police. So, he's out there. He talks a good talk, doesn't he? Then he started up this Operation Warrior, 15 drugs raids, £1 million worth of drugs seized, and 51 arrests of crime gang suspects. So I don't know. And then there was this. I mean, this was just a crazy picture to put because he does actually look a little bit crazy on there, doesn't he? Or that he literally has been on a drugs raid and sampled some of the drugs. So, yeah, this is the sort of typical picture, nice bottle of wine. That won't be your Aldi crap, that'll be proper nice wine. It's probably cost, I don't know, £30 a bottle or whatever, maybe more, with his little cheese board, etc. So he doesn't skimp on things. But then when he first was saying, there's a lot of pictures of his family and everything on holiday. Oh, corned beef hash. Those of us that are from Lancashire, because I'm from Lancashire originally, we all know what corned beef hash is. There you go. He's good at making it. He never misses a photo opportunity, does he? Bless him. Now, then, of course, the crackers thing he did was when he started off campaigning for his re-election this year, he was asking for donations. Has he taken that off now? I thought it was before that. He may have taken that off. Where are we up to? Oh, he may have taken that off now. Can't see it anywhere. But I had it on I recorded it on a video. He was asking for donations for his campaign, for his re-election campaign. And I sarcastically liked it and shared it. And he liked it. He didn't realise I was being sarcastic. But because in the next breath, he'd been saying how he'd been doing his house up. It's been 2 years since a milestone in our house refurbishment. But then next minute he's asking for donations to help him with his election. So, he's what I would call low in self-monitoring. He doesn't understand in a cost of living crisis when people are struggling sometimes to even put food on the table or pay their bills. He's like, splashing his affluent lifestyle around and then in the next breath asking for donations. So he wasn't very wise in doing that. But anyway, so that's not what we're here to look at tonight, really. We're going to look at David, just say it like it is. I can't even repeat what you've just said. So we're going to let's look at this older video first. This was a video that I think a lot of you will be familiar with. just got to work out which one it is. I've got a few windows open, as you can imagine, because I'm going to show a few different things. Just turn that off for a minute. Turn some down. Yeah, now, do you remember, this was a video that caused a lot of consternation when Mr. Snowden said that the police, the Lancashire Police, had been spot on with everything they'd done with the Nicola Bulley case, and had even predicted when she would be found, and it caused a lot of consternation, didn't it? A lot of criticism. And this is that interview. We'll just have a look at that just to remind ourselves.
Earlier this year, during the huge and high-profile operation to try to find Nicola Bulley, you've commissioned an independent review into that operation, haven't you? I know you won't want to say anything that will prejudge that, but can I just ask you this? Have you ordered that review because you think it's good practice, or because you have particular concerns yourself?
I think for me, thoughts remain with Nicola's family and her friends. But what is absolutely tragic.
He cared so much about Nicola Bulley, he never even acknowledged, like the year on from when she went missing or whatever. He didn't acknowledge it. But in fact, that was the day that he was begging for donations. But he did this interview when he'd announced that he'd called for the sort of independent review that we all know was not independent. And this was the interview that he did, wasn't it?
Time, and every single step of the way that we're going with this review, family liaison officers are in place, and we're making sure that we do it with as much sensitivity to them as possible. And the reason that we've commissioned the review is because, yes, it is good practice when such a major story has come out and there's been such public concern to address that public concern and ask the questions and get somebody independent to come in. I'm also concerned that in a modern policing era, in a policing investigation that was sadly correct in its hypothesis all the way along, in which officers
he was at great pains to say that they were correct in their hypothesis all the way along.
Predicted correctly, very sadly, even the day that Nicola's body would tragically be found.
Now, this was a big shock, wasn't it, to people? Because that's the first time anything was said about that. So he just said, oh yes, the police very sadly predicted the exact day that Nicola's body would be found. And it was like, what? Where did that come from? Why, so he's not very, he's not very clear. He should never have said that. So he just talks, doesn't think about what he says. He doesn't monitor what he says. He's just saying, that caused a lot of consternation, and it has ever since. Because people, even to this day, say, well, how did the police know? Well, the way that they knew was they didn't know, but they calculated it on the basis of what normally happens with bodies that go into the river or go into water, that how long it takes for the gases and the this, that, and the, all the horrible things. And that on the calculation of that, on the estimation of that, they felt that Nicola's body would come to the surface that weekend, didn't they? So that's how it turned out. But he just said this, and then there was a great big outcry about it, and he never clarified it until the College of Policing report.
And yet it became such a story, particularly in the national papers, about bungling, incompetent cops. Yet they were right all along. So how did the police lose control of that narrative? And I'm grateful to outlets like the Lancashire Post, BBC Radio Lancashire, Lancashire Telegraph, Blackpool Gazette, all who were very measured and sensible in their reporting and listened to what the police were saying. But that wasn't the case with a lot of the national newspapers. And then this became an internationalized, sensationalized story. And TikTok in particular, and online amateur detectives put
TikTok again. It's all TikTok's fault. It's funny how they've got this obsession with TikTok. There's like when we were listening to the conspiracy theory thing with Chris Ness the other day in the members. There's a lot that I don't agree with Chris Ness about, but as far as this obsession with TikTok, because it's a Chinese company, you know, it's like they don't like TikTok, do they? They're more obsessed with TikTok than they are with YouTube. And yet there was, you know, I'm a person who never even ever watches TikTok. And I think a lot of YouTubers who talked about the Nicola Bulley case don't do TikTok. So what is this obsession with TikTok? I always mention, they always say TikTok ghouls, TikTok sleuths and whatever, you know, more than YouTube's. It's quite odd.
Pushing conspiracy theories out, which resulted in vile abuse towards Nicola's family and friends. How did that get so out of hand? And that is one of the clear work streams for the review of the College of Policing.
The criticism that was aimed at the force wasn't just directed at the confidence that they had in their hypothesis about what sadly proved prescient had actually happened to Nicola Bulley. It was also about the release of sensitive information about her, wasn't it? Was there any point during that investigation that you felt uncomfortable or had pause for thought?
Well, the ICO have made their statement on the release of that information. I have my own personal private views. This is one area of work stream for the college, so that's not something I would want to preempt. And I think I'll let the college do their work on that, and then.
Yeah, so we've had the College of Policing report now, and they did agree that was all. I mean, to be fair, I do think, you know, being fair about the College of Policing report, I think they did own up to a lot of things that they did wrong. You know, if you read it, and you know, I went through it and read it out, and I have read it, and it's, you know, it takes some reading because it's long. But they do own up to quite a lot of mistakes. You know, if you look at it, they do own up to a lot of mistakes. And one of them is this, that how they they mishandled the press for a start. You know, they should have, you know, they allowed sort of other people like Emma and Peter Falding and what have you to go and sort of take over the press interviews and that. And that was really because they didn't control it. And they did own up to that, and I think that's definitely true, and I think that's definitely something they have learned from that. That won't be happening again for the police in general, I think. So we've seen that was quite different in the Gaynor Lord thing, and it's been quite different now with the little boy who's lost in the river, who still hasn't been found, little Cello. You know, he'll take some finding. Don't envy that task for anyone. They did own up to that. They did admit that they dealt with it all wrong. The release of the personal information, that was again because things overtook them. Somebody was going to sell that story to a newspaper anyway. You know, there's a lot of sort of speculation as to who it might have been. You know, Mr. Mark Williams Thomas has been included in that speculation. But to be honest, I don't know for sure who it was who was going to sell the story or preempted that. You know, that's why the police had to release that information, because somebody else was going to release it to a paper or whatever. But it was all done wrong. It was all rushed. It wasn't done properly. And again, they did own up to that. To be fair, we have to be fair. You know, we have to criticise them for the things they did wrong, but we also have to recognise when they admit they did something wrong.
We're happy to discuss that once that review is concluded, but I wouldn't want to preempt the outcome of that.
Just finally on this, how close was your contact with the force during that period? Because obviously the force has to remain operationally independent.
I can't direct and control operational resources, so my job is not to ring up the chief constable in the morning and tell him where to put which officers and how to run investigations. They are the professionals and know how to do this. Am I there to hold to account and make sure that, yes, in times of difficulty, the constabulary has the resources that they need and the backing that they need, but also to make sure that I'm keeping a close eye and holding the force to account in my role effectively as the regulator for Lancashire Police, as the Office of the Snowden Crime Commissioner. So I was receiving regular briefings from the chief officer team on the case as it unfolded, including on Saturdays and Sundays as we progressed through that case.
You know, I'm just wondering what his job is really, because he's just like really a media man, isn't he? You know, because he's saying, well, he tries to secure funding and stuff like that, I suppose. That's part of his job, isn't it? You know, he's on really good terms with Rishi Sunak. He was there for drinks at Christmas. And of course, he will be on good terms with him because he's conservative. He's the same political persuasion. You know, so I suppose his job is to try and secure funding and to be the public face of everything, but he really doesn't have any, he just said then, he doesn't have any operational input. He just really goes and takes selfies and, you know, chairs meetings and things, I suppose. I don't know. You know, it's difficult to know. Hi, Mariah, if I haven't said hello to you before. If anyone's coming that I haven't said hello to, just say hello to me again. I'm sorry, because I don't see who's coming in when I'm on the, you know, when I'm on the videos and things. Okay, so we're going to look at another video now, which you definitely will not have seen. And let me just see when it was. I'm not sure when it was. Let's have a look. I was very interested to find this podcast. It is a couple of years ago, I think, to be fair. And this is a podcast, but it's called The Godcast. And Andrew Snowden was a guest on it before the Nicola Bulley thing, a couple of years ago, I think. So I can't find the date on it, but I do think it was a couple of years ago. So let's have a look at this. So the Godcast podcast.
And I am with Lancashire's Police Crime Commissioner and Andrew Snowden. And Andrew's given me a wonderful tour around this incredible site here in Preston. So, Andrew, thank you so much for allowing me to come over and see you, and welcome to.
I'm not sure how to make it bigger, sorry. So we might have to just put up with it like this.
The Godcast, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. Great to well, I say be here. You're here in the station with me, which is great. It's been good to. We've been just having a walk around the police estate, looking at all the different infrastructure that's needed at the training centres and the vehicle centres, everything just to keep policing going. So yeah, it's really good to be here and to talk to you.
If you get a chance to come, I would highly recommend it because it's not what you imagine at all. It's a huge site and fascinating to see. Andrew, you're new to this role. You've been in the role since May. So I suppose the first question.
So it was just after he became commissioner. I must say, looks a bit slimmer there than he does now. I'm not saying that he's fat now because he's not. But his wine and everything, he definitely looks a little bit chubbier now than he was then. You know, wine and food will do that to you.
Question is, how's it going?
It's going really, really well, I must admit. One of the things to just absolutely reassure anyone who lives in Lancashire who is watching the Godcast, the just real passion that I've encountered across police officers and police staff across Lancashire. I mean, I think blue light services like policing and things like that are something you get into if you've got a calling for it. Yeah. It's like going into the priesthood. You've got to have a passion for for your parish, for your congregation. For the police, I think it's that passion for maintaining law and order, protecting the vulnerable, and busting up criminals. What I've encountered out there is passion. Yeah, there's frustrations about wanting to do more, but none of it's insurmountable. It's all stuff that I think as a new police commissioner with huge budgets over the next few years with the uplift program and other things that we can really crack on. And a lot of it for me is about getting back to, there's actually a video in the background here we noticed before called problem orientated policing, which is an old-fashioned term that's making a comeback, which is it's a bit about focusing in on local neighbourhoods, local communities, and addressing the problems rather than just turning up and being seen to do something about it.
Tell us about that role of Police Crime Commissioner. What is it in a nutshell? What is your ultimate responsibility?
So ultimate responsibility is to set the budgets for the police force, to set their priorities and to hold them to account for delivering against the performance that is set in those priorities. So the police and crime plan, which might sound like a very dull document, is actually is something that I'm working with my team on developing at the minute. That document will set out the priorities for the police force, the things that I want them to focus in on sorting out over the next few years. And over that 4-year period, that will contain budgets of about £1 billion in total over that 4-year period, which is huge. But what I'm doing is trying to get out to as many places as possible. So I'm going to visit every police station this year in Lancashire, meet as many frontline officers, get out to local communities, to really understand what it is that people in Lancashire want to see more of from the police, and how we can enable that, and how we can make communities safer.
Can you all hear it okay? I'm trying to, I was trying to see if I could turn the sound up, but I can't see anything where I can. It's a little bit quiet, but I think you can hear him.
And how did you get the job? Was it something you applied for, or did somebody say, Andrew, I've got this job for you, it's made for you? Was it, what were you doing before?
So it's an elected job, so you stand for election. So everyone in Lancashire had the opportunity to vote for me earlier this year, of which just over 180,000 people voted for me. So I was very, very pleased with that. It's the highest turnout, highest number of votes any police commissioner has ever got in Lancashire. And I think for me it was that real compelling. We need to sort out antisocial behaviour. We need to take the fight to county lines, gangs, dangerous driving, burglary needs more investigation. Those things, I think people just like, actually, yeah, we need to get back to basics a bit. We need to get out there and deal with the criminals. But before I came here, I was a director at the University of Salford.
There you go. So he got voted in, according to him, on a very high, very high percentage. And before that, what does he say? He was at the University of Salford.
I was a county councillor as well on Lancashire County Council, so not completely new to politics. I've come into it with my eyes opened. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, I want to kind of go into it. We've done the niceties now.
Yeah,
Andrew, working in the parish that I do, I hear stories of crime quite frequently, and one of the things kind of people say to me is, "I'll not bother ringing the police because they never do alt." Yeah. That's what they say, and never do alt. Do you think that's true? Or...
For those of you who are not from Lancashire, if you want to know what that means, they never do out. It means they never do anything. They never do anything. I'll interpret for the Lancastrian accent. He looks like a proper no-nonsense sort of northern guy, this priest. So let's see, hopefully put him to task the questions that he asks him. He doesn't look very impressed by him, does he? He's probably a Labour supporter anyway, but he's like, they never do out. It means they never do anything.
Would you defend that in some way? But is there an element of truth?
I always think it's a good thing to never defend the indefensible, because you just make an idiot out of yourself. But I think there will be certain circumstances where, for a whole variety of reasons, the police may not have responded in a way that people want. They may not have had the resource to respond, and therefore people do get that sense. I mean, if the police assess everything on risk and threat. So if you ring in the call centre, the contact management centre, which we've just been to, say if you ring up on a Friday night and your allotment's being burgled, let's say for example, but there's currently a stabbing, there's a fight in Blackburn, there's a burglary in process with use of weapons, etc. The police are going to deploy to that because they're going to measure risk and threat. So I think that what the problem is, we've lost neighbourhood policing teams in a lot of areas, or they're nowhere near as big as they used to be. And people can argue to the hilt about why, but the fact of the matter is that's resulted in a lot, I would say, of local things that are of concerns to local neighbourhoods not being acted on in a way that people would expect of the police. That just maintaining basic law and order. In rural areas as well, in particular. So that's going to be one of my big things.
He does look bored stiff, that priest. He looks so bored. He could have done with washing his hair before he came on as well. But the other thing I'm just being picky, really. But Andrew has got on blue trousers and a green tie. And has anyone ever heard that expression, blue and green should never be seen? I think I've told you before, my mum was full of expressions like, these things. And that is one I remember. And so I would never wear blue with green, because it's blue and green should never be seen. So, Andrew, somebody didn't dress you very well there, or you didn't dress yourself very well.
Over the next 4 years, his neighbourhood policing needs to make a comeback.
I think there's perhaps a disappointment that people feel that if they make the call, that somebody will come back to them at some point and maybe investigate it, and quite often that doesn't happen. It just kind of floats by. So is that what you're talking about in terms of making sure there is at least some sort of follow-up.
Absolutely, because I think for people, particularly on low value theft, but has a high impact to you and your feeling of personal security in your own home, that's really important. In terms of antisocial behaviours, so people concerned about gangs or about vandalism, stuff like that, that it's not necessarily making a big financial damage, but actually to you as an individual or to you as a local neighbourhood, it's actually really impactful on how safe you feel. So we need those dedicated officers in those neighbourhoods to deal with that, and to build up the relationships. So, like in your parish, the police, your local constable, isn't it? If your parishioners have got concerns, you can go and talk to. That's really important.
And there are those links. If anybody's watching, you will have a local Bobby or a PCSO that you can contact. So do look that up.
When he said if anybody's watching, he obviously doesn't normally get people watching. But I know he didn't mean that. He meant if anyone's watching who needs to speak to the police. But it doesn't look. Neither of them look particularly thrilled with this interview, do they?
Andrew, I want to ask you. You've only been in the job since May, but is there a couple of things that maybe you really are kind of weighing heavy on your shoulders? When you're driving home from work after a day, discovering more and more about Lancashire Police, where you think, I've got to get to the root of that. Is there something that's really irritating your scratches points at the moment?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the big ones, and you'll see it in the amount of money that we've already attracted in from central government in the last 3 months, domestic abuse and sexual violence has really risen in lockdown. And for me,
there you go. Domestic abuse. What was it? Domestic violence and sexual abuse has risen during lockdown. So he's going to say now that he's really determined, to do something about that. And of course he hasn't. But never mind.
That's deeply worrying in terms of, is that new stuff that's being reported? Is it stuff that there's been kind of like, I suppose, small symptoms of it? So bits of stuff in normal life, but now people have been locked in together that actually it's blown up, and there's much more of that. But it's unavoidable that domestic abuse rose during lockdown. And I think that's really sad, actually. It's a sad indictment on modern society, that it is so prevalent. I mean, we're talking large numbers of cases. Nothing out of the normal. It's a national trend. It's not something unique to Lancashire. So for me, how we tackle that, how we get into that, there's so much of it that normally goes underreported. I think something we probably learned in lockdown is a lot of it kind of bubbles away, but people have different releases, whether they go out or they go to work and they're separate or whatever. When people have been locked in together, probably some kind of like unpleasant stuff that's gone underreported has been going on much more widespread than we imagined, and actually it's really bubbled over. And that, how do we solve that? Because once someone tells us, we can do something about it. So I think what one of the things that keeps me awake at night is how much is going on that we don't know about, and how many people are suffering right now while I'm thinking about it that we don't.
So, Charlie, are you saying that the priest used to be a stand-up comedian and worked at Argos? Is that what you're saying? Do you know who reminds me of? Reminds me of Ricky Tomlinson, out of the royal family. It reminds me a bit of Ricky Tomlinson.
Don't know and can't help.
Yeah, and another real sadness is the issue of drug abuse and drug dealing. And I have to say, Andrew, there seems to be there's kind of people that sit on two sides of the fence. One is and I'm talking about social kind of engagement with these people. So we run a food bank and we try and support these people, and many of these people have got addiction problems, and I hit a brick wall because I don't know how I can help them beyond that.
Yeah.
On the other side of the fence, the people that just think, well, stuff them. They've created the environment that they're in. Yeah. We shouldn't be giving them food. And there are people that hold that view, and it's very difficult. And a lot of those people that are using our food banks are victims of crime and perpetrators of crime. And it's a bit of a vicious circle. And I've been banging my head right through the pandemic about how we get to the root of these causes. And I was just wondering what your thoughts are as somebody in such a prominent position.
Oh dear.
For me, you hit the nail on the head when you talked about vicious cycle. And we've got to find ways of breaking it, because I do agree in terms of, I'm a big believer in personal responsibility in life. You do have personal responsibility. You do to make the correct decisions. We all make for yourself, for your family, etc. Because I think if you get into a state where if you get into a position where the state is responsible for everything, everyone has an kind of like a diminished responsibility for their own actions, which I don't think is healthy. It breaks down lots of things. On the other side, people will have suffered trauma, they will have suffered things in their life to an extent, which means they just can't cope. A lot of people, have been looking into this since I got elected. There are a lot of people out there who, like you said, are either victims of crime or have had really traumatic experiences in their personal life. I've had a really poor upbringing sometimes. I was brought up from very, very humble backgrounds, but I was loved, and that makes a huge difference. So on the other way, I talked about individual responsibility. Does society then suddenly have an abjected responsibility to those individuals? I don't think so. So, if you purely look,
Yeah. Well, he doesn't think society has any responsibility. Well, society, anyway, we won't get into a political debate, but I just feel like this guy, he probably is the opposite political persuasion to Andrew. So, but I don't know, maybe he isn't, but I doubt it, because if he's out there helping in food banks, and if he's a priest and dealing with people who are really sort of struggling, because there is a big north and south divide, all this levelling up that was supposed to happen that has never happened. He'll be at the sort of sharp end of it, like dealing with the people that are suffering the most. And someone like Andrew Snowden, as much as he might say he's had a humble beginning, I don't think the lifestyle he has, he can really understand how it is for somebody who has to go to a food bank because they can't afford to feed themselves or their children. I don't expect he's ever even had to consider going to a food bank. But anyway, that's not his fault, I suppose.
looking at it from I don't think we should be giving them free food point of view. Well, you're paying a hell of a lot of tax for all the public services that those people will take up in terms of health services, police, in and out of housing, all of that. So actually helping them and sorting them out, even if you don't connect with them on an emotional level, is good for society anyway. They will connect. If you can get people off drugs, they won't commit crime. They'll be more productive in society. They'll earn their own way, pay their own tax. And actually, this very morning, I was over in Blackpool before came to YouTube. I was showing the policing minister Project Adder, which is over there, which is really focusing in on the drug problem in Blackpool. Blackpool, which is covered by Lancashire Constabulary, it's the highest drug-related deaths in anywhere in England, and there's a focus in there at the minute on this project that we're funding.
Well, that's an interesting statistic, isn't it? That Blackpool, so according to Mr. Snowden, Blackpool, of all places, has the highest number of drug-related deaths than anywhere else in England. Yeah, interesting fact there for you. You always think of Blackpool. When I think of Blackpool now, when I was young, as I lived in Manchester, we used to go to Blackpool often, for a weekend or a day or whatever. It was only an hour away from where I lived. I never thought of it as being like a drug capital or whatever, but of course you're going back a long time thinking about when I was young. But it's quite sad, isn't it, if that's what's happened in Blackpool? It's sort of this really tawdry place now, whereas it used to be, I've been there with my friends before we were even 16 together, like gone, on the train or whatever to the pleasure beach, etc. So it wasn't a place that your parents didn't want you to go to. You wouldn't go there now, not after all the incidences like Charlene Downs, etc. You won't want your young child going there.
Really dealing with the perpetrators of crime. So if you are drug dealing, so you effectively are making profit out of exploiting other people's vulnerability, then we come down on you like a ton of bricks. But if you're the vulnerable person who's being exploited, then we need to help you. We need to get you off it. I mean, eventually it's your choice whether you want to do it or not. It's your choice whether you want to inject or not. Well, we've at least got to give them a chance.
Yeah. So, something I just wanted to touch on was kind of.
Did he really say then it's your choice if you want to inject or not? Well, you know, it is, of course, but I don't think anyone sits down and thinks, oh, I think I'd quite like to be a drug addict. I quite like to be a heroin addict. I don't think anybody. I don't think anyone. It's a choice in that sense. It is. It's right in a way, yeah. But you know, and then once you've done it once, then it is not a choice. After that, really, addiction is not a choice. It's a compulsion. But you know, he's talking as someone who's never been in that position, which I've never been in that position, but I can still have empathy for anybody who's addicted to anything. There's a problem there, isn't there? You know, and you shouldn't, you know, it's all a bit for the grace of God, there go I, because, you know, some of us are just lucky. Even if we didn't have much money when we were growing up, maybe we did have just good parents, or, you know, we were just lucky we were never offered it, or we were never in those circles. I feel like I sort of, you know, my culture of my age group was not drugs so much. It was more drinking, it was more alcohol. And then when you came up to the sort of 90s, that was it, it was all drugs. But, you know, he's not very sympathetic, is he? He's not very empathetic. But I'll tell you what, when Walter gets to be 16, you know, he might find you should never judge, because you don't know when he's got a teenager living in his house who maybe might go off the rails a bit, as often they do, he might get a bit of a shock.
Morals and ethics within the way we deal with people. I'm very fond of Blackpool. I've spent a lot of time in Blackpool. I was there last year when they switched the lights on, and I was in my civvies. I wasn't wearing my dog collar, and the homeless person came up to me and asked me for some money for a break, and I gave him a couple of quid. I'm not seeking any praise for that. And the guy walked past, and he basically said to the guy, "Get back in the sea, you effing tramp, where you belong." And my kids heard that, and we all kind of, and the guy just went on his way. And I think on a on a social level, I think there's a real lack of empathy towards people in those positions. But what about the police? Do you think there's room for more empathy in the police? I've dealt with police in my role as a store manager for Argos in the past, and police would often come and pick up the shoplifters. I have to say, they were all okay, but there's a real sense of cynicism there. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I just want to comment that little story that he told before, that he was there with his kids and that some twonk came out and told that homeless man, "Get in the sea, you tramp." Well, of course, Andrew Snowden's political party that he is affiliated with, wasn't that those twonks, like those Eton boys who were setting fire to £20 notes or whatever in front of homeless people and laughing? You know, there's just this sort of, like, it came from, do you remember, loads of money? It came from, you know, really the Thatcher years of like money was the most important thing. But I think before that, I don't think money was such a big thing in the UK as it is now, or as it became. You know, it was this sort of loads of money. Do you remember Harry Enfield when he used to do, any of you of a certain age like me, you remember Harry Enfield? And the loads of money character that he did, because suddenly money was God, you know, money was everything, which I don't think it was, not in my mum and dad's generation anyway, and not in my generation. Money wasn't a motivator in the same way as it is now, where everything's about money.
You know, here we are again. It's kind of that cycle.
Yeah.
What's your view on that? Do you think we need to be a bit more empathetic to people or not?
It's a really interesting question, that one, because I think what you'll find is lots of police officers arrest the same people, or have to go and deal with the same people over and over and over and over and over again. And I suppose, boy, you cried wolf, your empathy is going to kind of like drain.
Oh, I think he'd like to get a machine gun and just, you know, get rid of them all. You have to deal with the same people over and over and over again. You know, oh dear. But of course they do, because as well, there's no mental health support. There's not the support for anything that used to be. Look at him smirking there. I'm getting a bit angry with him now because he's just sort of like, oh God, you know, these people, they just get on, you know, just get on your nerves. Just he'd probably just sort of wipe them all out or something.
A little bit. So, but do they still come out? Yes. Do they still absolutely care? Yes. You know, I was out in Burnley actually on a drugs raid with the local team, and the officers were telling me about how saddening it is now that
He was out in Burnley on a drugs raid. I bet he enjoyed that.
They're at a point in their career where they're now arresting the children of people that they've been arresting time and time again.
Oh dear.
I think their empathy with that, the next generation coming through, is probably there. With the generation that's allowed that to happen, they've got, you know, some of them will have drained empathy, but do they still care? Yes. Does the police need to have more empathy? I don't think so. There might be individual circumstances, but
See, the other thing that's happened under the Conservative government in the UK as well is where children did have a chance of getting out of situations, you know, like I was born on a council estate. We never had any money. I was luckily managed to later on go to university because I got a grant for going to university. I didn't have to pay fees. And that's how you get out of these, you know, you with education, with opportunities, do you know, like opportunity. And now I think it has gone back where there are so many limited opportunities now. Certainly in England, I know in Scotland, university education is free still, isn't it? I think, but it's not in England. So you can't. How do you get out of that poverty trap now? Where's your you know, there was a way of getting out of the poverty trap before, and that it was Britain was turning into more of a meritocracy, you know, that you got on if you deserved to get on, rather than you got on just because you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. And you know what, to be honest, he's a product of that. He would not have got to where he is now if he was you know, he said he had a humble background. Well, with his humble background, if he was growing up in the society that there is now in Britain, where you know, you've got no chance of getting on unless you've already come from people who've got money or whatever, you know, or it's not you've got no chance, but it's harder. It's harder. He was a benefit of that. He benefited from that time when you did have more equal opportunities, despite which background you came from. And now his party, in my opinion anyway, has put Britain back 20 years. But of course, he's got on okay. Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't. I'm getting on my soapbox. I can't help it sometimes.
now today the reason they want to bust up county lines gangs is because they want them to stop exploiting people and distributing drugs and being a blight on communities. You know, you've got to do that. So I think you've got to have empathy as a police officer. They're in the job to keep streets safe, to cut crime, to put bad people in jail, and to protect the vulnerable. Do they get frustrated with persistent shoplifters or something like that? Then yeah, I think I probably would as well.
Yeah, I think what you said there was quite interesting about, you know, the officers arrest the same people again.
Oh, sorry.
Again, and I think my challenge, if somebody is kind of political but non-political, would be, well, why are we arresting them again and again and again and again? And I think it's a challenge to whether you're on the left or the right of politics. Is, well, when can we actually say that these people have been arrested and the justice has been served and they're now better human beings, or they're doing well in life? Do you think we'll ever see that? Is that a dream?
We do see that. Yeah, I think we do. We do see that. I think a lot of people don't see the amount that goes on in the background in terms of prevent work, in terms of reducing reoffending, in terms of supporting people when they come out of prison. You know, I met the really powerful thing about Project Adder in Blackpool, for example, is we've got a team called the Lived Experience Team. It's 11 people who have themselves been either heroin or crack addicts, have been in prison or anything, and they are doing the outreach work. Because if I turn up dressed like this to speak to an addict and tell them what they need to do, they'll look at me and say, "Get real, mate. You don't know what it's like for me." And I don't. So actually employing people who've got that experience to do that, I think, can really help. And so we do. They were telling me about, and they're almost tearful today telling me about this guy who's now been 8 weeks clean after 2 decades of drug use. And he was homeless, etc. So it does happen. I have a bit of a saying, which is, we've got to be there to help people and steer them away from the life of crime. But if they're committing criminal activity, then they are a criminal and should be treated as such at that moment in time. Because first and foremost, we have to protect the public.
Yeah. And I think it's right to point out that people do get better, because we've seen it as well at church. But it's also fair to say that there will be areas of across Lancashire, be it Blackpool or Blackburn or Preston, there's certainly areas of Burnley that are known as areas you really don't want to go.
Yeah.
Do you think we can rid those places of that fear?
Absolutely. And for me, it is. Is that something that the police can do on their own? Absolutely not. I mean, the age-old saying, isn't there, about the broken window? Broken windows in communities. You've got to help clean it up and create that place people can be proud of. Healthy, happy communities don't generally have large amounts of crime. So for me, it all links through back to the, this is where I'm going to put my political but not political hat on. It all links back to the government's levelling up agenda and actually meaningfully delivering on that. And that's why I think that the Lancashire MPs and Anthony in Burnley, Sarah in Hyndburn, Andrew in Pendle and Jake in Rossendale, they're in the east, and Nigel, they're really pushing that the government has to deliver on this, because we won an election off the back of it. And for me, yes, the police have a role to play in that twofold. One, in terms of actually.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's true what he's saying. They won the election on the back of saying how they were going to level up the north, what they were going to do to the north, because they won the election on the grounds that the Conservatives won in places they had never ever won in before. Not only, not very often, but never. Constituencies that voted for the Conservatives because of Boris Johnson or because of Brexit. They wanted to stop immigration, because there's a lot of immigration in those areas, and there's a lot of bad feeling. Whether it's right or wrong, I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. I'm just saying it is a fact. So that's what he's been voted in on. So it's really interesting to see what happens this year in the election, not only just generally who ends up winning the election, but it'd be interesting to see if Andrew Snowden gets voted in. And I don't know if any of you know, but just the past couple, if you follow any sort of politics, there was a by-election in Rochdale, which is not far away. Well, it's in Lancashire, and it's not far away from sort of Blackpool, etc. Rochdale is in the north of Manchester, and George Galloway won it. So Labour didn't win it. George Galloway stood as an independent, and he's a very checkered character. He's been on Celebrity Big Brother, made a total tit of himself on there. He's very left-wing, and he's not frightened of saying sort of what he thinks. So that was not only a blow for the Conservatives, it was a blow for Keir Starmer as well in the Labour Party. So it sent a message out, it's not 100% certain that Labour will win in these seats either. I don't know who's going to win. There'll probably be some independent candidates come forward. But I can't see the Conservatives winning, to be honest, because I feel like the people in those areas do feel a bit let down, because they were promised a lot and they haven't actually really received anything.
There are just some bad people that need taking off the streets, and help take them off the streets, build that community intelligence, get them off. But also they have an outreach role, working in schools, working in local communities, teaching people about what the impacts of crime can be, and helping reduce it through different ways. So, yeah, but I agree, but it's not something the police can do on their own.
I think I'm just trying to hear the voice of people coming back at me saying, well, the proof
Yeah.
will be in the pudding, won't it?
Absolutely, of course it will.
You know, the proof will be in the pudding.
Of course it will.
I just want to move on to a few other subjects. One about is diversity.
That's a good old northern expression, isn't it? Well, I think it's not just northern. I don't know, any of you from the south, you'll know. The proof will be in the pudding. It certainly will, as long as he's not the pudding. He'd probably be making the pudding.
In the police force, we're very proud to be part of Inclusive Church at St Matthew's. Are you content with how the police force in Lancashire is shaping up in terms of diversity? And I'm not just talking about black and white people. I'm talking about disabled people, people who may be gay, people, whatever.
Yeah.
Where are you? Where would you say you are with that?
I think happy with how it's shaping up is exactly the way I put it. So have police forces had huge underrepresentation issues in the past? Yes. Does that make them any difference? Lots of large organisations? Not really. We've just signed off on a new diversity and inclusion strategy, so myself and the Chief Constable, so that'll be coming into play soon. But the recruitment drives that we're on at the minute, particularly with all, because we've got a big opportunity with the amount of new officers we're recruiting at the minute. For me, it's about they've got to be representative of the communities that they're serving. Otherwise, where do you get that understanding? You talk about empathy as well. Where do you get that understanding of local communities, of different faiths, of people's different priorities, of people who've experienced hate crime? So yes, I think it's shaping up. The latest recruitment figures are showing on all indicators an improvement, and that'll take time. Because I think a lot of it is about encouraging people that they can join the police in the first place. If the people don't, if people from a diverse background don't apply to join the police, you can't recruit them. Yeah. So there's a lot of work that's going on with really targeted, not just advertisements, but recruitment outreach into certain communities. And I think it's important that we give people confidence that the police is a diverse workforce, and you can come and all different values are celebrated.
Yeah, I can't help, again, I'm hearing the voice of what people might say. What about a guy who's in his 30s and he's white and he's just come off being a lorry driver?
Yeah.
And is he got as every, are you still encouragement for people like that?
Yeah, we
want people from a bit of experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I met on Friday morning, I was in Morecambe.
Look, every time he tells a lie, Andrew Snowden, he crosses his arms like that. He's done it twice now. When he said something, he said, "Oh yeah, we encourage anyone," but then he crossed his arms. I don't think that's quite true. And then as soon as he realises he's crossed his arms, he's obviously been on some courses about, what to say, what to not do when you're being interviewed. As soon as he realises he's crossed his arms defensively like that, he lets them go down. You can tell when he's lying. I wonder if Mrs. Andrew Snowden can tell that with him.
I met a detective there, a trainee detective there. He's in his 40s and he's had a career change.
Yeah.
And actually, he passed all the tests. He's got the right mindset and skills. So we've taken him on. So yeah. So I think there's an illusion that's been created.
He passed all the tests. He's got the right mindset and skills. In other words, he's breathing. So yeah, take him on.
That you have to be a 21-year-old university graduate to get into the police now. You absolutely don't. If you want to know more, if anyone out there wants to know more about joining the police or anything like that, then you can have a look at the police recruitment pages, give the police recruitment team a ring, they'll sort you through it. There's multiple ways of entry in, but you've got to meet the criteria for the role that you're applying for.
Yeah, you've got to be breathing.
And just a quick word about faith communities and their contribution to society. Andrew, I've certainly noticed through the pandemic that without some faith groups, communities would have collapsed, certainly in terms of food support. What's your view or respect for those kind of communities?
Absolute respect and anyone who's listening who's been part of that, huge thank you from me, because I've seen it firsthand. I don't know if you know Andy Pratt, who I've just appointed as my Deputy Commissioner. He's in terms of the Preston churches and Blackburn Cathedral, I think.
Now, I don't know much about Andy Pratt. Maybe we need to look into Andy Pratt. He's very well named, isn't he?
He's very active and has been really involved in running a food bank as well. And it's been really important to see firsthand from him how important all those volunteers have been in terms of local communities. But actually, how do we keep hold of that? So actually, there's a lot we can learn from COVID around how many people out there do actually want to come together and do good for their local community, and have probably got a real sense of satisfaction out of being given the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
So there are lots of other ways that We can use people to help us. We talked earlier about antisocial behaviour and problems in neighbourhoods. It's like I said, it's not just about the police knocking on the wrong guns' doors. It's also about that sense of community and local neighbourhood. You bring people together and you organise events and things like that. So actually, how do we tap into that more going into the future?
Yeah, thank you. A couple of questions from people who I put a post out inviting people to ask questions. Somebody asked me, what's your view on free speech?
Free
Do you
speech.
think the right to offend should exist?
The right to offend.
And how far should that go? People like, I'm a huge fan of comedy. People like Ricky Gervais and Frankie Boyle, their boundaries are very far spread. Some people will love that. I don't have a problem with it myself, but some people do.
Personally, I love Ricky Gervais, but I can't stand Frankie Boyle. But there you go.
What's your take on it?
The right to offend, I think, given if I looked at Twitter sometimes, I offend people just by existing as a Tory on Twitter, but it's not.
Yep. He doesn't care, does he? To be fair, you've got to, he doesn't care, doesn't block you if you say something shitty to him, like Mark Williams Twonk and Peter Falding. He's like, he doesn't care. He just does his thing.
No, I think free speech is important. I'm not a believer in the cancel culture, the whole I don't believe in no platforming realistically, unless someone is making a proper hate speech, unless they're actually committing a hate crime, then if you don't like it, don't listen to them. I mean, there's lots of views out there that I don't like. There's jokes that I don't sometimes find funny, but as long as it is not deliberately aimed at demeaning an individual person or a group, or comedians do cross the line sometimes, and they generally end up apologising. But I think on the whole, you do sometimes feel we've lost our sense of humour. I mean, I'll probably get a shed ton of emails into my office off the back of saying.
But the thing is, he's right what he says, and I totally agree with him. I do think sometimes people have lost their sense of humour, but I'm not the police crime commissioner, and it's like Ricky Gervais or Frankie Boyle, and not Frankie Boyle, I can't bear him. I do think he is offensive, to be honest. I don't know why I don't find I think Ricky Gervais is just honest. But I do feel with Frankie Boyle sometimes he is just pure offensive, spiteful, really. But it's true what he says. But the problem he's got is he is the crime commissioner. That's the thing is, if he was like a comedian, or if he was an actor, or if he was anyone, but being the police crime commissioner, I suppose you do expect people to have some gravitas. I mean, what do you all think? Is he right to take things lightly, or should he take things seriously? He certainly shouldn't be wearing green with blue, as far as I'm concerned. I think that should be an offence in itself. But he's right what he's saying. It's just his job is a serious job, so that makes it difficult, doesn't it? What do you think?
In that now, but that's my view anyway.
Well, I don't give my view very often, and I'm not going to. So if you want to make a complaint,
Don't
do that way. But just on politics, Andrew, because you've publicly stated there you're a Tory. Do you think that the Conservative groups just talk about empathy, talk about progressing things? What I feel about politicians per se is that it's more about point scoring. It's than actual real social justice and things like that. Do you think we need to argue better? At the moment you've got this thing in Afghanistan that's going on. We're recording this in August of 21, and there's so much blame going around, isn't there? It seems politics is about blame.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? Do you think we need to get away from that?
Yeah, I mean, and what's bizarre about the whole Afghanistan situation of everyone trying to blame everyone, when America in the UK politics, we're talking about UK politics here, aren't we? Once the US pulled 90% of the troops out or committed to doing that, it was irrelevant what we did as a country, really. So why are we actually just blaming each other? Why don't we just come together and say, right, how do we help sort out the problem and bring people back? whilst I may have stated I'm a Tory, I don't think you'll have once heard me mention or point score against Labour any time when we've been together today, because I try to lead by example, which is I am in a political role as police commissioner because I stand on a policy platform. I stand for election to be accountable to the public, but I don't think people want me as police commissioner to be going around. If someone attacks me or says something political, yeah, I've got sharp elbows, I'll back back. But I don't think people. I think people turn off by it. I think in politics, if you can't spend your time making a positive case about what you would do to do things better or make things better, then I think people are just switched off now by listening to point scoring. So yeah.
And I can vouch for Andrew, and I've enjoyed being with Andrew this afternoon. He's very approachable, and I don't want to deliver more work to your office, but you want to hear from people.
Absolutely,
you want to hear people's views
without doing a shameful plug. And this is only time limited for when this goes out. I have a consultation that's open at the minute. We've had a few thousand responses already, I think, because people are seeing. I am trying to get out there as much as possible. So I've got a consultation that's open. If you go on just Google.
I just want to say, because remember, he'd only just been elected here, so he was all enthusiastic for it. He's probably been through the phase where he's got used to it, got into the job. Now it's an election year. So if you do live in Lancashire and there's something you want sorting or doing or something you want to say to him, this year is definitely the time to say it, because he will be wanting every vote now. He'd be looking for every vote to be to carry on being the crime commissioner. He'd be looking for every bit of good publicity he can. So if you have got an issue, that you want Mr. Snowden to look at, my advice to you would be to tweet him, or on X. Do we still tweet now that it's X, or is it called something else now? I can't get used to this X. I think it was just a total. Why they just didn't leave it as Twitter, I don't know. Because Twitter and tweeting go together. If you've got X, what do? You X people. I mean, what? Anyway, never mind. So that's just an aside. But he doesn't get loads of messages on X. He doesn't get loads of retweets and this, that, and the other. So I think now, if you live in Lancashire and you've got something that you want Mr. Snowden to look into, the best chance you've got is now, because it's election year, and you've always got more chance in election year to get things done than you have afterwards.
Police and Crime Commissioner consultation or something like that. It's on my Facebook pages. It's on the office website. It's just a short, it's 10 minutes to fill it out, and it's basically just getting a sense check from people about how safe you feel, what do you think the police do well, what do you think we could do better, what ideas do you have for making your community safer, and just get as much of that into us as possible. So, especially while I'm writing this police and crime plan.
We live in a fantastic county, don't we? It's a wonderful
Lancashire.
I do.
I even brought my wife from Yorkshire. I love it that much. I went and rescued her and brought her back to God's own county.
Good on you, good man. And so, just finally, when you're not got the pressure of this role, what do you like to get up to? What's your kind of hobbies and pastimes?
So me and my wife love walking. We've got a dog called Heidi that we absolutely love to bits. So we do a lot of walking around East Lancashire. I am a big fan of stopping off for a few beers on those walks and getting around it good. My dad is a traditional Lancashire man. And he's one of those people that if you ask him for directions somewhere, he gives it to you by which pub or used to be a pub there to get.
Do you know where it used to be?
Yeah. So you stop at the dog in. So So we both love walking. Love getting out and meeting people, and we have a real passion for cooking as well. So actually, Sunday evenings for us, we try as much as possible, because we both end up working Saturdays a lot. We try as much as possible on Sunday. We share a bottle of wine and we make a new meal, and try and do something different every Sunday night. And I just think, in a relationship in really busy lives, maintaining that quality time together is really important. My mum lives just over the hill, so we have my mum over quite a bit. Family is really important to me. Like I said, I was brought up, my sister. We thought it was terminal at the time. She had epilepsy for most of my teenage years and had to have major operations. My mum couldn't work because she was looking after my sister. My dad was divorced. My dad's got made compulsory redundant this year at 69, having worked in the same factory for 40 odd years.
Gosh.
So we didn't have any money when I was brought up. We didn't even have a TV. I remember at primary school, I used to get picked on because we didn't have a TV and watched everything, but I was loved. And I think for me, spending time with my family off the back of that, because I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for their love and support. So yeah.
Well, thank you. That's a lovely way to end the interview.
My God, I'm almost liking him now. So he's got quite a story, hasn't he?
Kind of reminds me of Corinthians, and without love there is nothing, and absolutely is the case.
Oh.
Andrew, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me over to headquarters here in Preston. If you want to follow up on any other interviews, just Google the Godcast. There's lots of interviews there with politicians, with musicians, with comedians, with people from all walks of life. So, Andrew, thank you for joining me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed meeting you, and it's been great showing you. And actually, it's a good reminder to me, because even after just a few months in the role, I'm already starting to get a bit desensitized to all the amazing stuff that happens here. And then you show someone else, Ray, and you think, God, actually, yeah, this is impressive.
It is. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. Look. So the next one coming up on there is with Jeffrey Archer. Oh, don't want to watch him. Interesting. So it's interesting to sort of hear a little bit about Andrew and what sort of a person he is, and has it changed anybody's view of him? Or yeah, we like the vicar. I think he interviewed him nicely, and he came over okay, didn't he? I think I learnt a few things about him in that interview that I didn't know before. So that's what's it's important, interesting. So I've got one more thing I want to show you about Andrew Snowden, and this is from this year, to sort of get an idea of what's going on at the moment under his jurisdiction. And this video was made just after, I think, Christmas. And it's like it's the Lancashire Police and Crime Panel. It's very recent. It's only February the 1st, 2024, where they're all sitting down and like assessing sort of what's been going on. So let's watch. I've watched a little bit of it, not much, to be honest. I haven't had time to watch much of it, but I thought we could watch it together and just see what's discussed. But what I did notice is right at the beginning, he does do a tribute to Peter Lawson. So let's have a look at this.
Just a precept meeting. So the minutes of the last meeting will come to the next meeting, which is March. So moving on to item 3, the recruitment of the Chief Constable. Assad's just going to give us a bit of... Oh, I'm sorry. Assad's going to give us an update on the makeup of the committee first.
Thank you, Chair. Just referring to the last committee meeting when we talked about membership and the changes that will happen predominantly in Blackburn and Burnley. I've had sort of a dialogue with Burnley, and one of the things I advised was smart skills and experience is also a criteria for membership, which was considered by Burnley Council. So
we've no minutes of the last meeting because this is just a precept meeting. So the minutes of the last meeting will come to the next meeting, which is March. So moving on to item 3, the recruitment of the Chief Constable. Assad's just going to give us a bit of... Oh, I'm sorry. Assad's going to give us an update on the makeup of the committee first.
Thank you, Chair. Just referring to the last committee meeting when we talked about membership and the changes that will happen predominantly in Blackburn and Burnley. I've had sort of a dialogue with Burnley, and one of the things I advised was smart skills and experience is also a criteria for membership, which was considered by Burnley Council. So they decided not to change the membership for this year. Hence the reason why Councillor Townsend is still with us today. Thank you.
Thanks, Assad. So moving on to the recruitment of the Chief Constable, over to Andrew.
Thank you very much, Chair. And as agreed, just before we go on to that item, given this is the first time the panel has met since, and it was only just over a month ago, just to note the very, very sad and unexpected passing of the Assistant Chief Constable of Lancashire Constabulary in December last year, Pete Lawson, who passed away unexpectedly at home. A
true gent, an absolutely superb and dedicated Lancashire police officer of nearly 30 years service, led, as sure many of you will have come into contact with him during the COVID period, where he led the Lancashire Resilience Forum efforts. More broadly, he led the Lancashire Road Safety Partnership from the police perspective, oversaw specialist operations, and a number of major investigations of the constabulary over the years. So I think we just wanted to formally, myself and Jackie discussed this before the meeting, we would want to formally note from the Police and Crime panel the respects of the panel to Assistant Chief Constable Peter Lawson and his family and friends in the constabulary.
Now, so for any of you that maybe don't know, because I know there's a couple of Australian viewers on here tonight, and maybe you know about the Nicola Bulley case or you don't, but maybe you know that just before Christmas, Peter Lawson, who was one of the high up he's the Assistant Chief Constable, one of the Assistant Chief Constables, there were loads of them, he just passed away suddenly. He was only 50 years old. And it was like a really strange thing because he passed away suddenly at home, and the coroner, the coroner decided, the same coroner who did the inquest on Nicola Bulley, James Aidley, which I need to do a video on him again soon, because there's a few things that have come up that I found out about him, some more things. This just declared that it was natural causes, and this is all he said. So there was no inquest. There was no inquest. He just decreed that Peter died of natural causes. So we're presuming that that means he had a heart attack or a stroke or something for him to die instantly like that. If it was natural causes and he didn't actually delete himself, because there was some speculation about that in the beginning. And it seems like he hadn't been ill, although he looked quite ill, but it seemed like he was quite stressed. There was the College of Policing report coming out, and he didn't, nobody came out looking, smelling of roses out of that College of Policing report. So whether it was the effects of stress, but it was all mysterious, because normally, causes of death are declared, aren't they? Like he died of a heart attack, or he died of cancer, or, he'd been ill with cancer for a while, or he had an asthma attack, or whatever had happened. But no, nothing was ever said, just he died of natural causes, which just added to the mystery of the Nicola Bulley case. Everything is mysterious. Nothing is transparent. Anyway, so he's just opened that meeting there, Andrew, by, with a tribute to Peter and sending out his sympathy to his family and friends.
Moving on, the Chief Constable of Lancashire Constabulary, Chris Rowley, indicated and has given notice to myself, as per his contract and the process, that he...
Then the Chief Constable announced that he was resigning or retiring. Rebecca Smith, who was one of the detectives, she's retired, though presumably she was planning to retire anyway, but she seemed to bring it forward. So a lot of the detectives that were on this case, the Nicola Bulley case, they've either resigned, died, or retired, and then other ones like Sally Riley, who was initially quite prominent in the case, has disappeared. We don't know what she's doing. We think she's, making the tea in the office or something. She's completely disappeared. So, these are whether they've all been, might be because of the inquiry and there were so many mistakes that the police made. They might have all been discreetly asked to sort of just step aside and new blood coming in. But again, because it's not transparent, we don't really know that. It's just added to the whole cloud of mystery over the Nicola Bulley case, really. It's just like more things to sort of question.
He is retiring from policing after just over 30 years service across a number of police forces.
Moving on, the Chief Constable of Lancashire Constabulary,
Chris Rowley as Chief Constable, given he had only just started 1 month before I started as a new Police and Crime Commissioner. It seems to be that the retirements of Chief Constables and the election cycle seem to go hand in glove. However, where we are is that the Chief Constable has indicated his intention to retire. Section 38 of the Police Reform and Social Responsibility Act 2011 dictates the process and the ways in which a Chief Constable is recruited, which is obviously an appointment. The dismissal and the recruitment of Chief Constables are at the behest of Police and Crime Commissioners. The report sets out the timeline. The letter from the Chief Constable was received on 2nd of January. We went public with the job pack and advertised the vacancy on the 5th of January. And
it's true, they did advertise the vacancy. It was on his Twitter. He put that on his Twitter. It was everywhere. But of course, they probably already knew who they were going to put into that vacancy, but they're obliged to advertise the post. But I expect they really already knew who they were going to put into it.
Has gone live. The next key point on that day is the report to Police and Crime Panel, which is today, and the closing date for applications is next week. Then we'll have shortlisting. There will be a 2-day assessment centre, and then I will make an offer conditional to a confirmation hearing at this panel, where you will have the opportunity to confirm the appointment or otherwise that I have made for police Chief Constable here in Lancashire. And the current Chief Constable, Chris, will retire on the 31st of March. And the estimated start date of a new Chief Constable is in there.
Yeah, so we saw on his Twitter, didn't we? We saw on his Twitter that he's recommending this lady, Sasha. And I suppose it has to be confirmed by the next meeting of this panel. But I mean, they're not going to say no, are they? But yeah, he's made his recommendation. It was on his Twitter account. And the next time this panel meets, they will recommend Sasha will be given that job to take over on the 31st of March.
But that obviously depends on their terms and conditions, either whether it be depending on whether it be an internal or an external candidate who is appointed. Also to note that I've offered that the chair and vice chair of the Police and Crime Panel for Lancashire can observe the whole process and therefore will be present, hopefully, at the varying stages of this, whether it be the shortlisting or the 2-day assessment centre, and therefore we'll have the opportunity for complete transparency for this panel to see how that recruitment process is run. The panel itself will be made up, which will provide in the report back, of a number of key people. I won't give the actual names of the people because that's still being nailed down, but there will be a senior police force representative external to Lancashire Constabulary. There will be a senior local government representative, and there will be an independent panel member. There are strict criteria about what the independent panel member can.
Oh my God, he can certainly talk. Is he just reading that, or is he just saying that off the top of his head? He can certainly talk quick. And yeah, what Susan said there earlier, the local MP has resigned as well. So Ben, and not only was the MP, he was Ben Wallace, who's like also the Secretary of Defence. He was in the cabinet. He never mentioned the Nicola Bulley case once. He never mentioned it. He never, it was a surprise to find out that he was the local MP. He kept that quiet. And now he is not standing at the next election. He's one of loads of Conservative MPs that are not standing at the next election. Also, his boundaries are changing for his constituency, so he maybe knows that he's not going to win, and that's why he's standing down. Maybe he was disappointed because he applied for the job of Chief of NATO and he didn't get it. and he was disappointed with that. So yeah, they're disappearing thick and fast. All the ones that had anything to do with the Nicola Bulley case are sort of disappearing one way or another here and there.
And cannot be, so they cannot be a councillor or an MP, they cannot be a serving or a police officer or have those kind of connections. They need to be independent but with a connection to Lancashire. So we will progress with that. And at that note, just to thank Chris Rowley. You'll all have met Chris. He's been to this panel on numerous occasions for his service over a number of years, over a number of different police forces, but obviously for us, over the past 3 years, leading the constabulary through some difficult and challenging times, and also leading on the major investments that you as a panel have endorsed and been part of over the past 3 years. So we would like to pay thanks to Mr. Rowley, and we will have, at the appropriate time, the opportunity to thank him for his service. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, and I'm sure the whole panel would agree with you. Chris Rowley has been really excellent. Yes. Alice.
Oh my God, that's exhausting. I feel tired after listening to him say all that. Do you know what? All these people that are arriving late, I would just not even let them in. If they can't, you know, they're councillors are on a panel for the Lancashire Police and Crime Panel, and they can't get there on time. I would just shut the door and say, well, sorry, you didn't get here on time, bugger off. Have they turned the mic off now? Why has it all gone quiet?
Is that okay now? Yeah, right.
There you go.
I think this will be my third or fourth Chief Constable, so I feel a bit of a veteran now. It's a bit worrying, really, isn't it? But a couple of comments, really. One is, I think Chris Rowley has been an excellent Chief Constable. I'm a bit surprised and a bit concerned that he is going after, is it 3 years? Only 3 years in the role.
Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? So he's a bit concerned that he's going after only 3 years in the role. So surprised that he's going.
Because I think he's actually been very effective in many areas. Obviously could do better, as every member of the crime panel would always say, they always do better. But I think...
Do you know what it sounds like, reading between the lines? Has he been pushed?
I think the question for me a little bit is that continuity? Because 3 years, you're just really getting into a job like that, in my view. Obviously, we also have elections, you mentioned. So there may be a change of commission, there may not be. We'll see where that goes. So in the recruitment, are we looking to get somebody who might have that longevity of service? But obviously the demographic of the people you're recruiting for a Chief Constable tends to suggest that they've done a lot of service and therefore are given the option to leave after that service has expired. And then also, if you like, what are the drivers around yourself as a Chief Police Commissioner setting an agenda for somebody else who may come in or not come in? And that's no, I'm not predicting the election in any way, shape or form. How is that going to be managed? Because for the good of Lancashire, we need a Chief Constable who's as good, if not better than Chris.
It's a bit of veiled criticism here, do you get that? And of course, yeah, election year, they could well have a different commissioner. So this guy is concerned who they're going to get in, and well, he's concerned, why has Chris Rowley only been 3 years and now suddenly he's going? What's going to happen with the next one? Because he's thinking in a different way than Andrew Snowden's thinking, because Andrew Snowden, with the best will in the world, and he might be on Lancashire's side, but he is a Conservative MP or a representative of the Conservative Party. And anyone who comes in as the Crime Commissioner is going to be, a representative of a political party, of one or the other, or maybe an independent, I don't know. But the point I'm trying to make is, if these other people around the table are people that have been there for years, because I don't know who they are. Are they councillors? Are they, you know, if they've been there for years and then they're worrying, they want continuity because they're thinking maybe of Lancashire as a whole. I felt like it was a sort of veiled barb. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well, but I feel like it was a little veiled barb, that what he was saying, Andrew, because he was almost saying, well, look, we're here for the long run, but you could be gone. You know, like that sort of thing. So can we have a chief constable who'll stay longer than 3 years next time, please? That's what I feel like he's saying to Andrew.
Who will stay around at least as long, if not longer than Chris, because just to have a revolving door is no use to us. And then that continuity between commissioners as well. It's a difficult conundrum to deal with, in my view.
Thank you very much, Alistair. Yeah, absolutely. They are all considerations in what we're doing. The criteria in which we must look for, the core competencies are set out by the College of Policing that we must assess against for a chief constable. So we've got to demonstrate that we have assessed against those criteria that the College of Policing set out. In terms of more broader than the core competencies, I mean, we've only just gone live, as many of you will have been briefed and have been part of, about the new target operating model for the constabulary. In reality, the last thing the Lancashire Constabulary needs is basically to be turned on its head again, with a whole new restructure, etc. And basically one of the key things that we'll be testing beyond core competencies at the panel will be people's vision. Do they understand where the force is? Do they understand where the force is in terms of recent history, where its performance is, what its operating model is? And basically what I'll be assessing them, you know, beyond that, on things like beyond police uplift programme, where do you see the key enhancements and improvements in policing coming from? And let them articulate how they would do that. In terms of years service, we can't discriminate on age, obviously, and therefore that wouldn't come into a factor in that sense. But one of the things that we will do, as we have in previous years, is put certain incentives within the package for staying for a period of time.
Just to follow up on Chair, I think it is important that whoever comes into that role, a bit like you have done with Chris, is you've had a programme to get to a point, realises that that's just been gone through and then builds on that programme as opposed to starting from scratch again. And just going back to the core competencies, they're great, but you look at a lot of chief constables around the country and you wonder how they got to that grading, but B, it's the stuff on top of that. And that's what Lancashire, we're a big force, we're a very diverse, lots of different problems, and therefore we've struggled in the past to recruit, I think, because of the lack of candidates. And I'd be interested in where you are on what the candidate cohort is, because, you know, I think
that's what I was saying, and that's what there are no people don't want to be in the police. They don't want to be in the police because the police is a shit job. It's a rubbish job, especially in Lancashire. They're dealing with violence, they're dealing with drugs, they're unpopular. You know, it's just horrible. There's guns, it's just so. They're struggling for recruits. Of course they're struggling for recruits. So, gosh, I'm glad we started watching this, because it does give you an insight into the things that they are struggling with. And like Alana was saying, what is this guy doing on his computer? Is he looking at porn? Do you know what, Alana, because Alana's in Australia, but we had an MP in the House of Commons who was sat there looking at porn on his phone, and he lost his job because of it. He said he was looking at tractors, and then accidentally, as he was looking for tractors, these porn sites came on. That's probably what he'd say when he's held up. So he's like, he's gone to this meeting, but he's so interested in the meeting, he's on his computer. I'm surprised they're filming this meeting, actually, and they've put it on YouTube, because you know it's never going to be a good look, really, don't you? Or maybe they're supposed to always be transparent. I don't know. I just found this. You know, as I always do, you find things when you're looking for something else. I was looking for something else about Andrew Snowden, and I found this, and I thought, oh, in fact, I was looking for something about Peter Lawson, and this came up, and I thought, oh, that looks interesting. And I think that was very interesting what that guy was just saying. It did sound as if Chris Rowley, you you know, he was supposed to take charge a lot more in the Nicola Bulley case, wasn't he, than he did. You know, that was one of the criticisms in the College of Policing report, and he's probably been told to go. And he's making it sound like he's chosen to retire, but he probably has been pushed. That was the impression I got from what the other guy was saying.
I think increasingly we were seeing people going for deputy roles rather than chief constable roles, and that is made very clear. And you may not be able to do it in the literature that's gone out, but you can certainly do it through the process, the 2-day process or what have you.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, in terms of the candidate pool, there is absolutely no it's not a non-public fact that there are concerns amongst police forces about the number of candidates that are in the pool for chief constable roles. You have to have the College of Policing level training and approvals. You have to have been on the leadership courses at the College of Policing. Therefore, the number of people who are in the pool with the appropriate qualifications, etc., to become a chief constable is very limited. It's one of those sectors where it's not like recruiting the chief executive of a council or a business. They have to have the appropriate police command qualifications. They have to have operated at a certain level and received those College of Policing endorsements. In terms of longevity of service, there is something inherently perverse in the way that the system works on pensions. It's currently something the Home Office is working with the Treasury on, which is if you hit 30 years service on the old pension arrangements, which we've still got a number of generations of police officers to go through before we get to the new pension officers reaching those ranks. And basically, you become financially worse off every year you stay in post. So we punish people for staying beyond the age of 51, 52, which is madness. And basically, there is currently a debate.
Oh gosh, this is so interesting. So you're saying we punish people if they stay over the age of 51 or 52? Well, Rebecca Smith was 51, wasn't she? Was she told to go? I mean, she retired, supposing she'd done 30 years service. But it just makes you wonder, doesn't it, with what he's saying now? Gosh, interesting, very interesting.
Being had at a national level about whether you just let them draw their pension when they hit 30 years and we don't lose that wealth of experience and knowledge. I mean, in most other sectors, in your early 50s, you're just hitting your leadership prime. And therefore, we need that in policing, and that's beyond the control of this particular recruitment process, but it's
Yeah, I think he's right in some way, and I think I've said it before in videos, but you need a combination, because the problem now in these times is they're changing so quick, you know, as far as technology, social media, all that. And I think the Nicola Bulley case showed particularly how the police could not keep up with the challenge of social media, and how it took the narrative away from, well, it was the mainstream media first that pushed it, and then social media took it on, and the police were floundering, and the guy who testified at the inquest, you know, I don't mean to be ageist, but he'd been in, you know, the data tech, but I'm not saying they should get rid of the people who've got experience. Experience is so important, but they could combine it with some younger people. You know, people nowadays, you know, teenagers, they've grown up with all this technology. They know more than I'll ever know. You know, they know already just as part of their lives. Just then when I was growing up, you know, I was the one who had to program the bloody video for my mum and dad and stuff, because they didn't understand how to do it. Every generation knows more than the previous generation about technology and stuff like that. And now, especially, it's moving so quickly. So I did feel that, yeah, they can, you know, they should keep hold of because they're experienced in things, but they do need young people as well, for some things that just can be just the silliest thing that a young person would just know, just because it's part of what they've grown up with. Whereas an older person, however much experience they've got, it just might be something they miss. So I've never understood why it has to be a debate between older people or younger people. It's a combination of the experience. You know, it's all useful. It's all useful in its own way, but it's useful together, in my opinion.
It's a broader issue, and I'm incredibly supportive of any change being made by the Treasury to allow that to happen. Finally, specifically to Lancashire, the job pack I have set out was particularly Marmite. I haven't shied away from basically saying what we want in Lancashire. I don't think there would be anyone around this table who would disagree with it, although I'm happy to have paper thrown at me if you do. But what we've gone out and said is basically we want a no-nonsense crime fighter who understands that policing and the Peelian principles of policing, that the police should be from and for the communities that they serve, which is a difficult job in such a diverse and big place as Lancashire, needs to be at the forefront of that person. So we want someone who is going to come and do that kind of no-nonsense, crime-fighting, community-focused, neighbourhood policing approach.
Well, you know, this chief constable, he had about 3 assistant chief constables, you know, so he wasn't doing it all himself. He did have 3 assistant chief constables, or at least 3. I can't remember how many now. Of course, one of which was Peter Lawson, who sadly has died. I'm still not sure about him dying of natural causes. Do you know what I mean? I just don't know why they wouldn't just say what he died of, why they had to put it in that sort of strange way. But yeah, it's very interesting this, because you can see something's gone on. That College of Policing review was so damning. You know, they did admit to a lot of mistakes, and I do believe that they did admit to a lot of mistakes. So something's got to give. And it seems they're having this big clear out, are they?
To rebuilding public confidence and trust in policing. And that's got to be at the heart of it. And the job pack raised a few eyebrows because we didn't just talk about all the nice strategic things. What we want is someone who's going to come in, roll the sleeves up, get on with the job, and do it in partnership with people across the county.
Okay, Peter.
Thank you, Chair. Just a timing thing more than anything else. Is it a statutory notice of 3 months that the Chief Constable has to give? And could it not be 6 months? Is that in your gift to do that? Because if it was 6 months, it would mean that we don't have a period of 3 months where we've got no Chief Constable. Thank you, Chair.
I pride myself on very rarely never being able to answer a question at this panel, but you flummoxed me on that one, so I shall refer to the monitoring officer.
Thank you, Chair. The contract that the current Chief Constable is on is 3 months. So in that regard, the proper due process has been given. I hear what you're saying. Invariably, in some places, in terms of extending that period, we can look at extending that period potentially. But sometimes you do find that you do, I think last Chief Constable.
So what, the Chief Constable only gets a contract for 3 months? What are they supposed to do in 3 months, I wonder? You know, literally any job you went into, even if you worked in McDonald's, what you really, by the time you've done 3 months, you've only just learnt your job, if then. That does seem a silly thing, doesn't it? What, you only get a 3 month contract? You know, it's just, gosh, just speechless.
Possible but 1, wherever that gets us to. I think we had more notice. So it is variable in terms of individuals giving that actual notice, but 3 months would be the standard in those circumstances. And there's always a Chief Constable, because the regulations say that in the event that in the absence of a Chief Constable, the Deputy Chief Constable is then acting Chief Constable. So we're never without one, even if that person is not in post. Thank you, Chair. So just to clarify then, if there isn't a suitable candidate, the Deputy Chief Constable will take the. Thank you.
Yeah, so just to confirm, and just for the panel's interest, I get a memo from the Chief Constable every time he even takes any leave to say he is discharging the functions of his office. So there is a formal way in which, because there are certain decisions only a Chief Constable can make.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, it was just to build really on the comments that, from over there in Fylde. I think the past 4 or 5 years, you know, we have a really good relationship with the police as a council, but I think in the past 4 or 5 years, we've had 5 or 6 different top teams, and it's just really want the recognition of that a new guy at the top again coming in and shaking it all. There's only kind of so many times we can go to our residents and say, this is the best way to police the area. And then 3 months later, we're changing back to the old way because this is the best way to police the area. And it's been 5 or 6 times now. So if we can just really have that in mind, the actual policing of the areas. I know we're putting the top candidate in for the job, but if it all gets thrown up in the air again, it has huge ramifications all the way down to district level. Yeah.
Absolutely. And part of the problem that you've got is not, we're talking specifically here about chief constable rank, but the issue that we've just discussed around pensions affects all senior ranks, all ranks. It affects even police constables, where we lose 30 years of street experience because they can't draw their pension, but they leave and draw their pension anyway. So the Treasury is no better off. But the issue is, if people are reaching those senior ranks at 26, 27, 28 years service, and then because of the pension rules need to retire at 30, there's continuous change because the senior officers are changing regularly, and that needs to be addressed. And I completely agree. One of the things, as I said to Councillor Bradley, we will be testing beyond core competencies, is have people digested and understood the vision for where they would take Lancashire Constabulary based on have they done their research properly or where the constabulary is and its recent history. I long ago, I've worked in a number of different sectors in senior roles, and I've long ago learned that reorganisation is a distraction from performance. If people are reorganising, the organisation becomes inward looking, people are focused on their role, what that means for their team, and it's an excuse for not delivering because you're in the middle of restructure. And therefore actually continuity and a focus on delivery and making sure that they deliver.
Right, sorry, there's a lot of bump in this, but I think we'll listen through it because there might be some important things come up. Unless I can. Anyway, no, we'll listen to it for a bit longer and see if anything else important comes up. If not,
The performance that the public of Lancashire expect to see will be right at the heart of the kind of questions I'll be asking the candidates.
Any more questions for this item? No, in which case the recommendations are that we note the content of the report, agree to organise a confirmation hearing on the 4th of March to enable the panel to review the recruitment process in accordance with legislation, and to agree the proposal as set out in 2.7 of the report, which it was to invite the chair and vice chair to all areas of the recruitment process. And I think I'm right in saying that unless the dates have changed, that Councillor Berry is going to do that. So thank you for that. So are we all in favour of the recommendations? If we could show hands, please. Yep, good. Thank you.
Did you notice it went black there so you couldn't see who had raised their hands and who hadn't? So it is a little bit edited, this. And you know, the sound is a bit weird. That reminds me of the inquest, because the sound was bad at the inquest. I'm sure that was deliberate so people couldn't quite make out at Nicola Bulley's inquest. I think it was deliberate so that people couldn't quite make out what was being said. Or are they just crap at the sound things in Lancashire Police?
Snowden Crime Commissioner's precept proposal, and Assad's just going to explain the process before we start.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Just in relation to the process, so after tonight, depending on how the panel votes, I'm just going to go through the options you've got. So we have to do a report after this, the panel, and the options are: you can either support the precept with any comment or qualification, or you can support the precept and make any recommendations, or alternatively, you can veto the precept, in which case we will need 2/3 majority of the people here present. So basically, just going back, I mean, we have to be.
Right.
Around £5.5 million of varying investments that we wish to make, but a large amount of that is continuing the trajectory and the priorities that we have already agreed through the police and crime plan, which is focusing in on those key 5 areas with a real focus on neighbourhood policing, and also to continue investments in making the constabulary more efficient and effective through investments in technology that help us make the constabulary more effective, but also more efficient.
He's very glib, isn't he, Andrew Snowden? I mean, you can see why he's got to where he is. He can talk the talk. I don't know if there's any substance in it or not, but he's very glib. He can, you know, the others, I've got to be honest, I can listen to him talking more than I can listen to the others talking sometimes, because at least he talks quick, but he might have been aided on his way by talking quick. I don't know, but he's more interesting to listen to than the others, but not necessarily that I'm saying that I agree with everything he's saying, but he knows how to talk. Let's put it that way. He knows how to present himself. He's, you know, that's one thing he's definitely good at.
And can ensure more efficiency savings can be drawn down to protect frontline policing across Lancashire. So I'll take the report as read, but for the record, I will draw through some of the key points and then happy to take questions as needed. So item 3.1.3 is the first area that I will draw attention to, which is the charge.
Some of it will be quite boring, I think. But I think the most interesting bit for us was that about Chris Rowley. It doesn't like it.
To deliver the extra 20,000 police officers that we have received funding for, and that's a further grant increase of £6 million.
Well, there you go. So supposedly they've been awarded funding for an extra 20,000 police officers. A further grant increase of £6 million.
Which, including the 8.3 million we've received since we last had a preset meeting, it means our core funding from central government has increased by £26,459,000 for the next financial year. And we also expect that the council tax base will grow by 1.5%. Which is what we've seen largely over the last few years. Just the core growth with new developments, with both across the county will generate around £1.7 million in growth, just natural growth in our council tax base. So if you ignore the £8 million that we received in year, and we just then look at what it means based on our current budget for next year, that gives us.
He's got a degree in waffle. He can waffle. He can waffle, and of course, he's bound to end up being Prime Minister. Let's just fast forward a bit. I've got this, do you know why I've got this horrible feeling that when I'm in like the real twilight of my life, he'll just be becoming Prime Minister.
A number of areas where we want to make investments in the coming financial year. 5.19 million of investments into frontline policing and enabling the police force to become more efficient and effective. As you'll know, we've recently recruited and started a new roads policing and a new roads crime unit. Two teams which are now out there on our roads 24/7. They have two very different purposes. The roads policing unit are, to quote it in simple terms, the traffic cops. They are the cops that basically police our roads for the behaviour and driving and making sure our roads are safe as we now have.
This guy's still on his computer. I wish I was good at zooming in and things, because I don't know really how to do that, zooming in to see what. Is he on Plenty of Fish or something? I mean, what is he doing on his computer? You know, come on, we've all got to listen to it. You should be listening to it.
Have a dedicated roads policing unit. We also have a roads crime unit, which is a more covert crime fighting unit, whose job is basically, most organised crime gangs are businesses of logistics in nature. They sell a product, they move it around, and then they ship their cash around. The difference is their business is illegal, and therefore they have to try and do it in evading the law. Most organised crime gangs cannot operate without the roads to distribute their goods and to collect their cash and move it back to where it's from. We also have one of the largest motorway networks of any constabulary.
Too boring.
Team on our main arterial routes. But as we'll all know from our casework, from our residents, a lot of concern and a lot of risk also.
No, obviously, if you want to watch this in its very full version, you can go on YouTube and watch it.
Overwhelmingly positive feedback and results from the communities where those ASB hotspots are. Who knew it? Visible Bobbies on the Beat actually works. And therefore, that targeted investment we want to continue to grow. So we're putting.
So why does he sound surprised that Bobby's on the beat work? I could have told him that, and I'm not the crime commissioner. Obviously, it works if you've actually got visible policemen walking around the streets. Now, to be fair, if it's true, Andrew says he's been trying to do this, go back to basics, get Bobbies on the beat. I don't know, because I'm not in Lancashire. Any of you who are watching this, please let me know. Do you feel that he has been a good crime commissioner? Apart from the Nicola Bulley case that we all know was a total fiasco as far as Lancashire Police was concerned. But in terms of other things, if you live in Lancashire, what do you think about his overall performance? I mean, I'm genuinely interested to know, because I don't know. Now, my family are in Lancashire. But they live in sort of like round about the Bury area, Ramsbottom, that sort of, not Blackburn, etc., which seem to be the problem areas that he's talking about. And of course, what happened to Nicola happened in St Michael's, and that her and Paul lived in Inskip. These are probably what you'd call nicer areas, if you like, with not so many problems, but they seem to have, I don't know. If you live there, let me know. I'm starting to waffle now, and I'm getting like him because I'm getting tired. I don't want to waffle on and bore you, but I'm genuinely interested to know.
Provisions in the budget of another £450,000 to match the £1 million we'll have from the government next year to deliver the antisocial behaviour hotspot patrolling on additional tours of duty, and that will pair up with the additional officers that we're also recruiting for neighbourhood policing as part of this budget. As I'm sure everyone will appreciate, if you grow the size of an organisation's front line, has an impact on the back office. And whilst we're identifying very numerous ways of making the back office more efficient and effective, it does have certain key areas, and we've identified some key roles where we need to support the increased in sized police officer functions. So there are some roles that we want to invest in supporting the Uplift programme, particularly in legal training and HR. We want to continue to broaden digital investigations.
You know what? You should be on one of these sleep apps. Quite often at night when I can't sleep, I listen to Sleep Cove, which is like a YouTube channel that's sort of where a guy tells, sleepy stories, and it's like hypnosis to get you off to sleep. And it works every time. This guy should, Andrew, he should do this, because I can literally feel myself falling asleep as he's talking.
You'll have heard me say many a time, there are very, very few crimes that don't have a digital footprint of some nature. Even a very simple drug deal is usually done on social media or through our apps and challenges now, and therefore continuing to grow the digital investigations capacity. The constabulary is a key priority.
Right. He doesn't stop.
We've got a bigger police force. We need.
I thought I could talk waffle, but he doesn't stop for breath, does he?
More vehicles. We've got more specialist capabilities. So if we want to have high performance covert vehicles that are going to be used regularly in high speed pursuits and potentially tactical impacts to bring pursuits to an end, it has a higher cost. Our IT program also needs major investment.
He's got to be reading that off like a ticker like this, hasn't he? Surely. Got to be reading it off something.
The capital program, and then that has a knock-on effect on the revenue budget in terms of licensings and other costs around making the constabulary more digitally enabled. So we've got a program through fleet and IT to invest an additional 2.71 million a year for next year. So the robots will have it done in just under 350 days. So they're the level of improvements and efficiencies that we're being able to make. So that is then reflected. And we've also managed, as you remember, we put the budget up last year
to meet the costs of huge rises in energy costs. Those have fallen, so we can take some money back out of the budget to reflect that rather than just leave.
Oh, he's put his computer away now, the guy, and he's got his phone out instead.
In that buried in the budget for the transparency. The constabulary came to me.
So,
I presented
that
to
is
this
then
panel
reflected.
that we had high inflation costs around energy. It's only right and transparent that we take those costs back out of the budget now that they're not there. Finally, when it comes to council tax, as you'll be aware, the government made an announcement on precept this year that they were going to increase Police and Crime Commissioner's precept flexibility from £10 to £13. That was announced a few months ago. Last year it was increased from £10 to £15 for 1 year. What we've looked at in last year when we faced the £15, as you will remember, the £15 didn't fully meet all of the costs that we had, which is why we had to put some of those cost pressures into the budget around energy. Where we are, and another £500,000, which goes towards meeting the cost pressures, because we don't want to go making cost reductions and savings beyond what would then become counterproductive in our view. As usual, we did the surveying. Around 65% of people who responded to the survey.
Right, I'm fast forwarding now because it's totally boring. It must be coming to the
I'm glad that Alistair turned it on, because I'm not sure I'm technically competent. I've got a few short questions for the Police and Crime Commissioner. In terms of a lot of what you've just spoken about there, Andrew, surely these are operational decisions for the Chief Constable or a new Chief Constable, and apart from the estate and discrete funding programmes that you may have, it'll be up to the Chief Constable how they apportion the funding that is raised either through the police grant or through the council tax that you set. And in particular referred to the establishment of further offices in neighbourhood teams. Is that not a Chief Constable decision? You mentioned IT investment.
Oh my God, this guy is so boring. Sorry, just this. Oh, so a lot of you seem to be amused by the name Ramsbottom. They call it Rammy for short. Ramsbottom. It's a lovely little village, actually. It's really, really lovely. Typical sort of northern village, but it's a real sort of nice place to live now. You know, people, it's just lovely. It really is. But it rains all the time. In Manchester, it just never stops raining. That's the problem. But yeah. Oh dear. I'm coming back to the chat in a minute. I'm just going to just watch the end of this. But to be honest, I don't think there's going to be anything else interesting.
It could be Cumbria, Greater Manchester, in my case, North Yorkshire or West Yorkshire. And there are significant issues of a delayed response because the cross-border logging of those calls leads to delays. Is any of that IT investment going to address the problems of those cross-border emergency calls being dealt with in a more efficient fashion?
Oh, so that sounded quite interesting. There's obviously some problem with the 999 calls. Anyway.
But fine.
Oh, that's it. So they've cut it off now. So just as I said, finally, they've cut it off. But yeah, I think, you know, if you want to see the bits you might have missed, which I don't know, there might have been something interesting that I fast forwarded on, but I doubt it. But I think we caught the most interesting bit for us, which was the discussion about Chris Rowley and his resignation. You know, Charlie, you would like to live in Ramsbottom. It's a lovely place to live. No, it's not embarrassing. I never even thought of Ramsbottom as being weird until now you're saying it tonight. Never even thought about it, but yeah, when you think about it, I suppose it is. Oh dear. Okay, well that's it. So we've looked at some interesting things about your man Andrew Snowden. There's no updates on Samantha Murphy. I've just been looking at that to see if there was any updates. Always before I finish a live, I always have a look, just make sure, you know, there's no news coming in that I think you might be interested in. There's nothing in particular that I can see. Let's just have a look. See if Andrew's posted anything tonight on Twitter or X. I'll never get used to it being called X. I just think Elon, he called it X. It was just, you know, for his ego, really, because it just wasn't necessary. But anyway, no, can't see anything interesting on Twitter. Nothing, nada, nothing. No, nothing. Well, there's probably loads of interesting things on Twitter, but I just can't find them right in this moment, and I'm probably too tired now. Well, do you know, one thing I would like to say, Elon Musk, does he rule the world now? You know, honest to God, I'm starting to get a little bit worried about Elon Musk, because he's putting this Starlink internet up everywhere. So we've got it in Spain now, he's put it out in Mongolia, in all sorts of places. It's in Britain, it was in he put it in the Ukraine. And then didn't he stop it? You know, but he's in total control of it now. And we know that Elon Musk, he runs Twitter. He doesn't run it like a business. It's like his own personal little toy. And when he feels like changing something about it, he changes it. Or if he feels like doing this, or if he feels like doing that, he's trying to go, you know, do spaceships and stuff. He's putting bloody chips in people's heads. He's experimenting on loads of monkeys, and, you know, he doesn't give a shit about animals or about ethics, or, you know, can you imagine what his lab is like? You know, it's horrible, probably. And I'm starting to get a little bit worried about him, because I feel like he's controlling the whole world, and he's going to put this internet up everywhere. And he'll be you know, and then one morning when he gets up and he's in a bad mood, like he does when every now and again he gets up and starts whinging about something, is he just going to think, oh, I'm fed up of Spain, I'll just cut the internet off for an hour or for a day or for a week? Because he's just too powerful, I think. You know, he's just got too much money, and it means too much, and he's doing all these weird and wonderful things. I find him quite worrying, actually. I don't know if anybody else feels the same. I think he's too powerful. You know, for someone who's not elected, he just happens to have loads of money. When he went to the UK, and Rishi Sunak was like fanboying him. You know, he was like sucking up to him like anything, because Rishi Sunak only cares about people who have money. And then it wasn't only in Britain, you know, everywhere he goes, everyone's lauding him, you know, like he's some god, and he loves it. He laps it up, and he laps up. And then these experiments that he's doing with the chips, you know, all the animals that he's murdered, getting to the point that he's got to. He does, and anyway, he's anti-immigrants, he's anti- trans and everything, because his daughter is trans, isn't she? His daughter is trans, and she's, you know, come out against him. So what I'm trying to say is, he uses his he's so powerful, but he's like a megalomaniac, because he just acts how he feels in the moment. He's not, you know, even politicians have to at least be responsible to their electorate. He's not responsible to anyone. He's just like this great big boy, like in this great big sort of playroom with all this money doing what the hell he wants. You know, I don't like him. I don't like, you know, I really am starting to really not like him. Exactly, Alana. He talks, he's always warning against the elite, but everything he does really is elitist. And he talks about free speech, but he doesn't allow, most people who bleat on about free speech only believe in free speech if it agrees with what they think. I've found that on YouTube. You know, people who come onto my channel and say, oh, you know, free speech, this, that, and the other. But oh my God, you know, they don't believe in free speech. Oh, DMV. Hey everyone, she says. We've been on here for 2.5 hours, DMV. We're going to bed in a minute. We're having a whinge about Elon Musk at the moment, but we've had a whinge about Andrew Snowden for 2.5 hours. But we're now having a little whinge about Elon Musk. And I've had a bottle of Carver because I've been celebrating having 3,000 subscribers. So thank you for letting me have a bottle of Carver because, you know, I haven't had a bottle of Carver for ages. So I had a bottle of Carver to celebrate. And look how I'm waffling, you can tell. So nice, that bottle of Carver. It's so nice. So yeah, I'm a bit worried about Elon Musk. I think it was the Starlink thing. So he's really pushing it in Spain at the moment. And I was considering it. I thought, oh, because, you know, sometimes my internet's a bit dodgy, as it is all over Spain. And I thought, so he's like advertise, you know, it keeps coming up on your feeds and everything. Starlink is in Spain. Starlink is in Spain. And I was thinking about it, but it's quite expensive. You know, it's probably double the price of my internet. And so, and then I started thinking about it, and I think I don't want Elon Musk to control my life in that way. But because internet is important, isn't it, to us all? Oh, thank you, Bridget. I hope you find it interesting. But do you know what? To me, it's just I present what I think is interesting. And I mean, that sort of sounds selfish, but what I think is interesting, normally the people that subscribe to me, I know they'll find it interesting as well. Because we're like-minded. Yeah. DMV, I think Andrew is on something sometimes when he has his pictures taken. Oh, Alana, I wouldn't be surprised. You know, I don't think Elon Musk is ethical at all. You know, don't get that impression about him. He hasn't got to where he is and got the money that he's got by being ethical. You know, most people who've got a lot of money, they've built it on the backs of somebody else. You know, they haven't, there's not many, some people have done it ethically, I suppose, but, you know, look at the royal family. You know, where did they make their money? You know, where did the crown jewels come from? They didn't come from, you know, wasn't some king or queen digging out a mine. That's right, you don't make money from ethics. Yeah, Bridget, it's true, but you know, he took it, didn't he turn it off when there was an attack? Wasn't there an attack where he turned it off? This is what I mean, he's got too much control over it. He did give the people of Ukraine Starlink so that they could have internet. But also there was there was one point, wasn't it, that he turned it off? Or he didn't turn it on or whatever, I don't know, to when there was an attack. He's got too much control over it. I just, you know, I always imagine Elon Musk, like, he's like some James Bond villain, like sat in a room with all these buttons, Like, you know, oh, shall I turn the internet off in Spain? Or, oh, let's have a mess around with the internet in Ukraine. Or, do you know what I mean? And the reason he had to turn the internet, it was the Ukrainian government, of course, who turned off the internet in Ukraine. It wasn't Russia who turned it off. So anyway. So I don't know. Yeah. I don't think, I think there is more to all that, Bridget. Because I had a student in Ukraine on the day that the Ukrainian war, or the Russia-Ukrainian war that was supposed to be a special intervention started. I was in class with my student, a Zoom class, he was in Kiev. And there was all jet fighters going by. I mean, it was the weirdest class that I've ever had. He was like, he's a young lad. Anyway, it was horrible. It was really horrible. But he, you know, he's from Ukraine and he lives in Kiev, but there's more to all that war than you know. And I only know that because of what he's told me, and he's Ukrainian, but oh, Alana. Rumours about Prince William being involved in Thomas Kingston's death. Well, we don't know. Well, we know that he died of gunshot wounds, don't we? But we don't know. We're presuming it's self-deletion. But I don't know what the reasons are. You know, there's so much goes on that we just know nothing about, Alana. So it wouldn't surprise me. There's something weird going on in the royal family, isn't there? We've got Charlie Boy, he's got cancer. Then Kate's disappeared. And there's a lot of rumours about her in the Spanish media about where is she, what's going on. And then, of course, there's a lot of rumours anyway about William and Kate, that their marriage is a sham, if you like, and that you know, that it's not now, it's not, you know, the marriage is over really to all intents and purposes, but they're just staying together. So, but we will never know the truth, and there might not be there might just be rumours. But he didn't go to didn't he pull out of a meeting or something with someone? He could, for personal reasons. Yeah, he cancelled a memorial service and then turned up with bruises on his neck. I don't know about the bruises on his neck. I don't know the full story, but I know there are rumours swirling around about the royal family at the moment. I'd like to say I don't care because I'm not a royalist. I don't like the royal family. I am a Republican. But having said that, I don't wish any of them any harm. I wouldn't, you know, I wish Charles all the best for his recovery. You know, I have on a personal level, I have nothing against any of the royal family. Just I don't believe in ruling families. So that's all there is to it. Yes, someone shot themselves in the head, Charlie. Very sad, very sad. Anyone who does that, if he did do it to himself, you know, that's another thing you don't know. But I'm taking my earrings out now, so you can tell I'm ready to go to bed. You know, I remember when I used to go out with my friends when we were young, and in the taxi on the way home, we'd be taking our earrings out and, you know, sort of starting to get ready for bed before we'd even got to the door. Shelley, you're talking to me. Okay, never mind. You're obviously a royalist, Shelley. That's fine. You do what you do, whatever you have to do. I'm not being funny, but I won't really lose any sleep over that, Shelley. So, there you go. Shelley Smith is never going to allow me Another minute of her time, I'm banned from her screen. I've obviously said something against the royal family, but you know, that's how I feel. So sorry. Well, I'm not sorry, to be honest. Never mind, Shelley. Enjoy yourself anyway. Enjoy yourself. Makes me laugh when people threaten me like I'm going to unsubscribe or I'm not going to watch you anymore, as if that should bother me. Yeah, bye-bye. Don't bang your head on the way out, Shelley. You know, I don't, you know, if you can't take an opinion, just don't, you know, am I supposed to be upset about that? Bye. We've all got our views. We've all got our views. I've lots of people who watch my channel who are royalists, and that's fine as well, because everybody, you know, whatever floats your boat. Just that doesn't float my boat, that's all. Yeah, you don't have to announce your departure. It's not an airport. Just don't watch anymore. It's fine. It's really strange that people have to say that. I think I might do that. I think I'm going to go on someone's YouTube channel and say that, like, just announce that and say, yeah, DMV just missed it because somebody called Shelley Smith, who I don't even know who they are anyway, said, I will not, look, yeah. I'm banned from her screen. Banned. She's never going to allow me another minute of her time. I'm banned from her screen. I don't think I'm going to sleep tonight. I honestly don't think I'm going to sleep tonight, because all night I'm going to be thinking I'm banned from Shelley Smith's screen. Oh dear. It's hilarious, really. Anyway, I am sorry in a way. I don't mean to upset anyone, but if you know, to be honest, if it upsets you because I don't like the royal family, really, you're getting your priorities wrong. Maybe it was Mr. Snowden. Maybe it was Mr. Snowden. Well, and it's funny how she just came out of the shadows. I don't think she's ever, I don't think I've ever even seen a comment from them or anything. Just came out, it's like, you know, just come out of the shadows like a thingy attack. You're banned from my screen. Like, okay, fine. Bet she does watch me again, though. Do you know what? Bet she does. Bet she does. If only to just come back on and tell me how she's never going to watch me again. Yeah, it really does. It does amuse me when people say, oh, well, you know, I'm not going to watch you anymore. I'm going to unsubscribe, as if, anyway, never mind. Silly. Shelley Smith. We won't forget Shelley Smith, will we? Let me have a look at her profile. See if I can see her profile. Don't know if I can see her profile. Let's have a look. Anyway, I'm not really that interested, to be honest. But sometimes, you know, she'll be some anonymous person. She won't probably even be a real profile. Could be anybody. Could be anybody. But I know I've never seen a comment from her before. Just suddenly came on to say that. So anyway, as I say, I will survive. Cheers, Shelley. Cheers. It could be Mr. Snowden. Do you know what? I think Andrew Snowden, for all his faults, I don't think he'd give a toss, would he? I don't think he, you know, he just wouldn't. He's just not, he's just so far in his own world, he wouldn't care. Lurker with a mission. I like that, Bridget. A lurker with a mission. Just waiting till right at the end to tell me that I'm banned from her screen. Sorry, Shelley, don't mean to laugh, but you are quite funny. Well, it did give us a little laugh at the end of everything, didn't it? But, okay, so, sorry, I shouldn't harp on about Shelley because we don't know anything about Shelley Smith's life. You know, she might be going through, she might have had a shit day, so, you know, don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I think really you've got to have had a pretty shit day to feel that you had to go and say that. Yeah. I think I might have to look at the wombats to finish off or something. Let's find something cute to look at to finish off. I've had a laugh at Shelley, but let's have a look at the wombats. Oh my God, it's really windy out there. Can you hear it? Right, I love this. I love these wombats. Oh, now this is a little bit sad though. They've got this little wombat called Autumn. And I'm not going to show that because that one's very poorly, but she's getting better. They're making her better. So let's have a look at some cute wombats. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was the royal family that did it for her. But sorry, that's the way I feel. Okay. Now this is, I wonder if I can make that bigger. I don't know if I can make that bigger. This is Layla. Oh, Lewis and Layla. Look at their funny little teeth. What is that? They're funny little things, aren't they? I mean, are they like a cross between a bear, a koala, and a... don't know what they are. Why can't I put the sound up? Hang on. Having a little scratch. Oh! Oh my God. They make some weird noises. And then they're really... oh, look, this is how they do it right now. Oh, how did it go? I want to have a look at these kangaroos now. I want to look at some animals before I go to bed. Oh, let's see if I can find the kangaroo one. Oh.
Asking a name for this little guy here, we've come to the conclusion that a great name is Biscuit, because he looks like the color of a biscuit with a little bit of white icing on his nose. So great name is Biscuit. Thanks everyone for all the names, but we'll call him Biscuit. After we got some really great names put forward, asking a name for this little guy here, we've come to the conclusion that a great name is Biscuit, because he looks like the color of a biscuit with a little bit of white icing on his nose. So great name is Biscuit. Thanks everyone for all the names, but we'll call him Biscuit. After we got some really great names.
Little bit of wombat and kangaroo fix before we go to bed. Yeah, well, they grow really big, Alana, as well, don't they? They're cute when they're little, but they get massive. I know that they get massive. DMV saying it might have been her mum. So Shelley might have been her mum. Don't get into a debate about the royals. I know, weren't they funny teeth that the wombats had? Yeah. Do you know, going back to Shelley, which I don't like to dwell on Shelley really, but it's funny how people defend the royal family, isn't it? It always sort of surprises me because it's like, why? Why? You don't even know them. You don't know them. They mean nothing, you know, well, you mean nothing in their lives. They mean something in your life, obviously, if you get that upset about it, but you mean nothing in their lives. You know, then their lives are just, I just don't understand why people get thingy with the royal family, but anyway. Okay, I'm definitely going now, but I'll be back tomorrow. So as far as I can see, there is no news at the moment about Samantha Murphy. If there's anything transpires overnight, I'll be back in the morning to talk about it. If not, I will probably see you at some point tomorrow talking about waffling about something. But yeah. Dear me. Gosh, the wind's really, I don't know, can you hear the wind? This is what happened last night. Was it last night or the night before? It actually woke me up in the middle of the night. It was so windy. I thought someone was coming in through the door. And it's sounding like that now. I wonder if we're going to have a storm or something. It doesn't worry me, Bridget. Honest to God, that if that was the worst thing that anyone has said to me since I've been on YouTube, I'd be, it'd be good because that's nothing. But you know what? As I always say, we've had teenage children. Anything anybody else says to you just doesn't matter. Oh, thank you, Tina. Thank you, Tina. I might have just one less subscriber than 3,000 now. No, I'd already gone over 3,000 anyway. But I've probably lost one tonight because I've been banned from her screen. But she'll be back. I just get that feeling. She's just annoyed about the royal family. But as time goes on, she'll be intrigued about some video that I do about Samantha or about Nicola Bulley or whatever, and she'll be back. I'll be back on her screen. But anyway, thank you so much. And yeah, especially for getting me to 3,000 members. Sorry, God, if I have 3,000 members, that would be good. Thank you for getting me to 3,000 subscribers. Don't forget to leave your fingerprint on the like button, please. And I just want to thank everybody. And remember to live and love wisely and carefully. If you live in Lancashire, remember that now is definitely the time in this election year. If you want something changing, you know, get onto your MP, get onto Andrew Snowden, get onto whatever you want to complain about. This is the year to complain about it, because this is the year that they'll all be trying really hard, be it Labour, Conservative, Screaming Loony Party or whatever. They'll all be trying really hard to keep your vote. So now is the time to get something that you want as far as politics is concerned. So night night, and remember, as always, till I see you again, may your God always go with you. Bye. And bye, Shelley, especially. Bye. Night night.